Hello and welcome to the Unfazed Review Podcast. I'm Ben.
I'm Emmett.
And today we are joined by Jaren Scott, YouTuber, dating, finance, and fitness coach, and digital marketing expert. Jaren Scott, thank you for joining us, sir.
Oh, I appreciate the introduction. I've never been called a digital marketing expert, but I recently realized that I've been in the game for a long time. So yeah, maybe I should start referring to myself in such terms.
Yeah, it has a nice ring to it. But yeah, I've been a fan of Jaren's for quite a while. I've listened to you a lot. I've watched, I would say, every single video on your YouTube channel. And it's a huge honor having you on, man. Much, much appreciated.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate it. I can, as you know, in the YouTube game, use all the love I can get. My channel came out the gate pretty strong, and then it's been kind of flatlined, although I've been doing stuff on there. So hopefully we can change that here soon.
Absolutely. Make sure you guys, if you're joining us, just look at the link down below. I'll have Jaren's channel there, and go show him some love because he has some absolutely top tier content I think will really resonate with the Unfazed crew.
So you have two channels, right? You have your own personal channel, sort of, and then you're on Entrepreneurs and Cars a lot.
Yeah, the Entrepreneurs and Cars is not my channel, so
Okay.
I am involved in a community. We call it the Top 1%, and then that is part of Richard Cooper's brand, who owns the Entrepreneurs and Cars channel. He has a couple of other channels too, some clips channels, and then he has a weekly Unplugged Alpha show he does Monday nights, and then we've been doing it Saturdays, the generals meeting. So I'm part of his inner tier of the top 1%, the generals meeting. But for guys that aren't quite at that point, maybe they're newer in their entrepreneurial endeavors, they don't have the cash to pony up to get into the top 1% because there is a bit of a hefty price tag there. Then I also manage a group under the Entrepreneurs and Cars or Unplugged Alpha moniker that is called the top 10%, and that's a little more accessible for guys to get involved with.
There's a lot going on. Yeah, I was looking at you guys up, just today, all through today, and I noticed, how many channels you have, so many different things are going on. You got quite the network. It's cool.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to do. As far as my channel, I use my personal name, Jaren Scott. That is my real name. I came to the conclusion when I first started the channel. I was kind of scared to start putting myself out there, to be honest, and I think a lot of guys in these types of spaces are, but I did it more for personal reasons, thinking that, okay, well, if I can't put my name in front of it, then maybe I shouldn't say it, or maybe it's not something I've thought out well enough yet. So it's keeping me honest to the highest degree possible. As we mentioned in the pre-show, you do have some censorship type issues with YouTube. So there's things that I've said out loud and people just lose their minds. I'm like, oh, well, that's the reality I live in. And everyone I know that lives like me lives that reality too. Yeah. So you kind of,
I respect the heck out of that. And I think that's something that we discovered pretty early on with the podcast, because we were doing that and we noticed, hey, the ones where we're a little more unhinged, the ones where we're a little more just speaking freely and being ourselves, those are the podcasts that people prefer. And every time I see you, in those generals meetings, you guys always speak very openly and very honest, and that's really why you resonated with me. It's like, oh, I like this guy. He, says it like it is. He's very honest. And I think, when your audience finds you, or at least, in our case, it's better to be more real and a little more raw sometimes. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I try to do, because really no one has the answers. I always say in life, people are really just trying to figure it out. And a lot of people that have negative interactions with people, a lot of guys that come to my channel, maybe they lack some of the social acuity necessary to get the results they want in life. A lot of guys come for the dating type topics, and a lot of them don't have a lot of work to do. It's really just kind of ironing out some of those social issues. So when it comes to the honesty thing, I always think in terms of, I don't really know what I'm doing in life, but I've been in this body for 35 years, so I'm figuring it out more and more. Next year I'll be a lot wiser than I am today. I'm sure I'll look back at this at some point and be like, oh my God, I can't believe I thought that at that period of time. So I like to just tell people, hey, here's where I'm at, here's where I was, here's how I bridge that gap, and here's where I'm looking to go in this area of my life. And that seems to help out guys.
That's great, man. That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, everything I've seen on your channel is just it's so real and it resonates. Maybe not every video applies to me, but there's a lot of them that I think people can get a lot of great value from. So really the overarching theme of this episode that I wanted to do, I mean, we can keep it very conversational. It's always how we do it. We keep it pretty cash, but I wanted to talk about guys in particular getting out of ruts. If they're, kind of at a low point in their life where they're having issues that are going beyond just, having a bad week. If we're looking at a situation where you're feeling very down, you're feeling depressed, maybe your fitness isn't where you want it to be, your career and dating situation isn't where you want it to be, kind of how to get out of that. And I thought you would be an absolutely perfect guest talk about this, because I think that's something that a lot of guys go through kind of silently, and maybe they don't really reach out for help, and they have to kind of figure it out on their own. And I think you would be perfect to kind of shed some light on how to get out of those slumps.
Yeah, we can definitely get into those topics. I'll start off with saying that a lot of times guys get in ruts because they live their life on autopilot. And in most cases, that's because they're trying to execute a mental framework that someone else has dictated to them, whether that's their parents, their spouse, their siblings, their inner circle, their social groups, their school, their job, society. And usually it's a combination of all of those. And most guys, they live kind of aimless lives, or I say it, they're in a boat without really a rudder or any paddle, or maybe one paddle, and they're just kind of rowing around in circles, and they don't quite know how to fix that. They know something's wrong, and that manifests itself in whether it's anxiety or depression or just negative emotions in general. So I try to be real cognizant of that myself, knowing that, okay, well, I feel this unnerving energy in my gut, or I feel this dissonance at my core. That's something higher than me, whether that's my higher self, whether that's in some supernatural being, whether that's in whatever you believe in, but something beyond you. Collective unconsciousness, I like those terms, more woo-woo type modern age. New age people call it source. I've heard that term, but whatever that is to you and your belief system. If you have a belief system, actually, a lot of guys don't have belief systems, or I use the term framework when I start off this answer, and I realize a lot of guys don't have a mental framework upon which they operate. These are paradigms that are dictated in their lives by other people, and they're not really in tune with who they are as a person, what their core values, wants, needs, desires in this lifetime are, and they don't have those things defined, or if they do have them defined, they compare it to their current reality, and there's such a gap that I'm a musician too, so I like dissonance. When you hear just like just like whoa, it kind of wakes you up and brings you to your senses and raises the hair on the back of your neck. I think a lot of guys live their life in that wavelength or frequency or whatever you want to call it, and that's where a lot of the issues come from. It can cause a rut because guys do one of two things. Either I have friends that do this, they go all in and they're like, oh my god, bro, what color's your, or what is it, some of the prominent guys in like the men's stuff development spaces, so like what color Lambo, or
what color's your McLaren?
I'm a hustler,
right?
Yeah, and then okay, well, you still don't have a framework. You still haven't created a base in your life, so you can have all the motivation all you want, but you're setting yourself out to fall flat on your face. And then when you do so, it digs you into a further rut. Or you have guys, and a lot of black pillar type guys fall into this type of mindset where they just give up, or MGTOW type guys, like,
and
hey,
I feel like that's
not worth it.
Yeah, I feel like that's one that you see a lot. Sorry to interrupt you, but I think the MGTOW thing and the black pill logic, I think that's very, very prominent. And I think that's kind of a default that a lot of guys fall into.
What even is black pill? I haven't heard that one before.
Jaren?
Oh, geez. Yeah, I try to stay away from like the red pill, purple pill, pink pill, blue pill, black pill type topics.
I don't know. I thought there was just red and blue.
Yeah. Black pill is more like black pill is more like nihilist. Like,
exactly.
You're kind of done with it all.
Doomsday.
But no,
like,
I agree.
If I'm not
an
alpha mega Chad, I'm not going to get laid. Or if I'm not a millionaire by the time I'm 30, I'm a fucking loser. These kind of things, which
it's a little
unhealthy. A lot
unhealthy.
of people are already hard enough on themselves. So you don't need that negative self-talk. Society will kick you enough in the ass on its own.
Exactly. Yeah, sometimes if you adhere to that too much, it can fuck you up a little bit more.
It can. I was telling the guys in one of my private groups, we have, it depends on which group. Some of them we have monthly calls, some of them we have bi-weekly calls, some of them we have weekly calls. And I was at EDC Mexico this last weekend. So
I saw that. It looked like fun.
Oh, it was a blast. Altered state of consciousness, let's say that. And I'm not referring to alcohol or marijuana. So
as you should.
Some of these drugs, they have side effects like introspection. And sometimes the introspection occurs in the middle of a crowded concert, and you're with a girl you're dating or a group of guys you just met, and then that introspection starts coming out. So at some point, and I haven't had this happen in a while, usually it occurs in a more meditative type state when I have these inner dialogues with myself. But in the altered state of consciousness, I had these thoughts start coming to my head like, oh, well, some guy talked to this girl, she's going to leave you, or, oh, her friend's going to, I almost started convincing myself that her friend was trying to convince her to ditch me, which obviously is not based in reality, because I've been in the dating game long enough to know I'm not going to invite a girl to a music festival that would do any of that stuff, or that where there would be a remote possibility of that happening. But I caught some of these old thought waves that I thought I had overcome in the middle of that environment I just laid out, coming in like, she's going to leave you, she's going to ditch you, she's going to take off with this guy. And then all of a sudden kind of had to deep breath, like, no, we're cool, we're groovy, this is good, this chick digs me, I dig the vibe, this is an awesome experience. Jaren, you know, come on, raise up, man, raise up. And then eventually, boom, you snap into that new mental frequency. Again, I was under the influence of psychological drugs. And then all of a sudden, boom, like the lights are brighter, the universe, there's more depth, you're more in tune with the environment, and you're like, okay. And it really, the reason I say that is it reminds you of just how powerful your mind really can be. You literally live in the world you create for yourself. And again, for a lot of guys, that's dictated by external forces, and they don't want to be upset, they don't want to be anxious, they don't want to be depressed, but they don't know why, they don't know what to do, so they turn to YouTube or they turn to the internet. And a lot of these guys fall into the more of the nihilistic type thing, like, oh, you know, life's tough and I'm never going to get ahead and woe is me and I'm a victim and I should just give up. Or they get caught up in the drama, more like, oh, well, it's feminist's fault, or it's black pillar's fault, or it's red pillar's fault, or it's this dating coach's fault, or it's this guy's fault, or it's the government's fault, or it's, and that's just not a good way to live life. I've fallen into those mental prisons or traps too. And then as you start letting it go, it's like, you know what? I really don't care what's going on around me. I just care about myself and those close to me and those that I allow into my inner circle or my web of influence. And then obviously, you know, I live in a safe neighborhood in a country that sometimes is not so safe, but you can start to create these inner mental structures and frameworks upon which to build a life. But I believe it all starts in the mind.
Dude, very well put. That was one thing I was thinking about just this past week when I was kind of thinking about different ideas for this, you know, specific conversation. There's so much, how do I phrase this? Sometimes you try, at least I do personally, you try to control too many things that you have no control over. And just kind of like you touched on a little bit, you really should focus more on what you can control in your own life, your friends, your family, your career, your creative output, your fitness, your health. Everything that you can control, focus on that instead of dwelling so much on things that are actually out of your control. And I know it sounds really basic, but that's something that I think I've struggled with in the past, where it's like I try to control too many things that are, you know, really out of my grasp. And it's better to kind of just focus on your slice of the universe, you know?
Yeah, I used to fall into that camp too. I remember where I live now, I kind of walk and bike everywhere because I have everything I need here in the neighborhood. But back in the day, when I lived in the States, I liked having cars. And I usually have sports cars, and I liked going for energetic or enthusiastic drives, let's say, or spirited driving. Let's say that. And but I lived in California at the time, so there's obviously the traffic issue there. And I remember I used to lose my shit in traffic. Someone cuts in too fast and just, God damn it, I can't believe it. Almost as if it was a personal slight against me. I'm like, no, this person's just an automaton, same as I am. We're all in our morning commute. They don't even know who I am. There's that degree of anonymity when you're driving too. It's the same thing guys do on the internet. I have guys that leave dumb comments all the time, or they'll send me messages that are just really amusing to guys like me. We don't have to get into any of them, but some of them are really quite funny. But back maybe 10 years ago, when I was in the phase of my life where I'd lose my absolute shit in traffic, probably would have taken those types of comments or critiques or criticisms at heart. And then you realize it's outside of your control. Like, really, who cares what some idiot on the internet thinks about me, or who cares what some Karen in traffic, you know, she's putting on her cell phone trying to put on lipstick and she's got crying kids in the back and she just swerved into my lane. Now I need to be situationally aware, whether it's in traffic, whether it's what I'm putting out there publicly, whether it's how I structure my life, my finances, my fitness, my health, my relationships. But once you realize that most people, I say this all the time to guys, and it sounds like terrible advice at first, but when you really take it to heart, it's quite liberating, is most people don't care about you.
Yeah.
Even when people are like, oh, I'm worried what my wife thinks, I'm worried what my mom thinks. Like, okay, how often do you see your mom a year? Oh, maybe once a year, once every other year. Or, oh, I haven't seen my family in 3 years because of COVID and they took it really seriously. Like, okay, well, they don't really care about you then.
Yeah.
You don't see them that often. When's the last time you talked to this person? You're so concerned about what your dad thinks about your career path. How often do you talk to your dad? Do not remember? Then why do you care? Why do you care what he thinks? And once you realize that most people don't care about you, they care about, and if they do, it's more so that they care about how what you're doing reflects upon them, then that's really quite liberating. And you can actually, I went through an activity years ago of renegotiating my relationships. That was with my interpersonal relationships, my romantic relationships, my familiar relationships, and even relationships with substances like alcohol, cigarettes, marijuana, things like that. Relationships with myself. I became my own best friend and then realized, well, really the only person I care about, what they care about, is me, or the higher version of myself, or what I'm striving to become, whether that's a year out, 2 years out, 3 years out, 5, 10, 15 years out. That's the only person who should really care about what it is I'm doing. And I do weird mental activities like, all right, I'm here in the present, here's where I was at this interval in the past, and then here's where I'm going to be in the future. So what is my future self thinking, looking back at me in this moment, and what I should be doing? So when it comes to, oh my God, I have to care what everyone thinks about me, I really only care about kind of me, myself, and I. And then again, as an extension, those within my internal web of influence.
Yeah,
That's good. That's good.
That's exactly Ernest Hemingway's advice that he puts very succinctly. He says the only thing you should compare yourself to is yourself from yesterday, which is true. Yeah, and
very well put.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great, because I mean, I think, at least me personally, and I know you too, it's like traffic was a perfect example, where it's like I've flipped my shit so many times in traffic. We're in
too, and I'm
we're in
usually
Phoenix,
pretty chill.
yeah. So it's like, but it's silly when you really take a step back and look. You're like, oh, that's stupid. It's like, I need to focus on me. I need to focus on things that I can actually control. But very well put. Very well put.
Yeah.
Or how about this one about caring? And this was a hard activity for me to go through with myself. It happened not this last August, but the previous August. I think one of my mentors, Rich Cooper, did a video about doing a digital detox, or that's not 100% digital detox. I make all my money online, and I do the YouTube gig and podcast and all that cool stuff, and I do some music projects too. So, but really it was about be mindful of what you're consuming. And you'll hear me say on Rich's shows quite often, hey, have you seen this? Like, no, I don't put that shit in my head. I don't want that shit in my head, because then you hold it there and you start to see it more in the world, and it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, and you create a world that consists of these things that really shouldn't be of any concern to you. Even crazy things like I did watch the Netflix series Dahmer. That was a hard one to watch, but for a couple weeks after, you start seeing the world in those terms. Like, I don't want to experience the world in this way. News is a big one, especially I've been abroad now for a few years, but living in the States, you fall into these bubbles. It was a year or two ago, I went home for Christmas, ended up getting COVID Christmas Eve, flew home Christmas Eve, tested negative at the Mexico City airport. When I got home, did the swab before I met my family, because my grandparents quite a bit older, tested positive for COVID. So we canceled Christmas, and then I tore my meniscus. So I was at home for, I think, 6 weeks or so. And I didn't have much going on because I have a life outside of my hometown. I haven't been there since I was 18, 19 years old, living full time. And so a lot of guys do this, got my mom's basement, got in the routine, smoked weed every night, watched InfoWars and Alex Jones, and got really, really pissed off. Like, we got to storm the goddamn Capitol. And I could feel that energy coming inside of me. But in that moment, my only reality, because I couldn't walk, my only reality was just what I was consuming media wise. Most media is not that entertaining. So the Alex Jones stuff at the time, I know he's been deplatformed pretty much everywhere now, but the InfoWars stuff, I'm like, well, this is pretty entertaining. And, these guys aren't wrong with a lot of these things, but I very quickly found myself falling into that thought spiral, because that was the only information I was consuming. And I didn't have my normal social networks. I didn't have my group of friends or my gym buddies or anything like that to filter that information or to provide more contact with the outside world. That was my only view into the outside world. And a lot of guys go down these really crazy rabbit holes, and it affects their entire belief system to where they do crazy shit like storming the Capitol and Viking helmets, or like on the other side of the equation, like these BLM or leftist type riots where they burned down most of our West Coast cities in a matter of a week because they were told to by someone else. Like, all right, these people aren't living life on life's terms, and you have to be really careful about that in terms of what you're consuming. So 100%. I've realized the less I pay attention to politics, the less I care about the news. I see the memes come up like the railroad explosions in the U.S. Like, that shit's all funny to me because I don't live in that world anymore. I live in a different country. We get different propaganda down here. There's different things going on, but you're cognizant of that. When people ask me about stuff in the U.S., like, I look at it kind of like the way the South Park creators look at reality. Just everything's funny. It's just all a joke.
You're a little detached from it. So.
Yeah, it's weird when you live outside of your own country too.
I'm sure. Yeah.
You do become acculturated very quickly. So when I come back to the U.S., it's like zoom, I'm
Yeah.
all of a sudden I go through this vortex. I'm immediately placed into another world, an alternate reality, and then you hear this chatter around you, and everyone's pissed off or has a chip on their shoulder, an agenda, and they you need to take your side, God damn it, and you're just like, hey, like I'm cool. I don't want to be a part of any of this stuff. Yeah, to me, you guys are all kind of idiots. And again, I quote the South Park creators. I've watched some of their interviews. Were like, hey, nothing's off the table. It's all funny to us. It's just all parody. It's all satire, and that's kind of the way I view the world.
It's funny you said that. I was just binging South Park yesterday, like pretty intensely. So,
huge fan. I didn't realize that had a new season come out. I watched the last 2 episodes. They're quite funny.
They're incredible. I love South Park. The stuff they get away with still is just like the best.
Yeah,
the best.
True. Yeah. You do need to have a healthy sense of humor about everything.
And
I think this goes back to your original point about not caring about things that are out of your control, because the news, InfoWars, whatever you feel about it, it doesn't really matter, because it's all, at the end of the day, the only effect it's going to have on you is it's going to make you like angry or afraid, and there's nothing you can do about any of it. 100%. So it's like they're telling you all this stuff like you should be emergency lights going, and what the fuck am I going to do? Like there's nothing I can get as pissed off or as like frightened as I want to, but what am I going to do?
And it's very easy to get into that doomsday, rabbit hole where it's like, you get into fill in the blank. Like you said, InfoWars, you get into the doomsday prepping, you get into the videos about like, the imminent financial collapse, things like that. And suddenly you start getting recommended more of these things, and it starts, filling up your feed. Yeah. And next thing you know, it's like you're panicking, you're freaking out. And really it's like, what are you going to do about it? Yeah. Like, what the fuck are you going to do about it if there's an economic collapse? Yeah. How are you going to control a war with Russia? What are you going to do? Like, what can you actually
I'll give Putin a call. We'll figure it out.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, it's good to be mindful of these things. It's good to be aware, but you can't let it control your life to where you're, panicking about something that is fully 100% out of your control.
Yeah, precisely. Now, the one that I still struggle with in terms of like internet detoxes and stuff, everything's fine. YouTube, Instagram, whatever. YouTube, I think I said that. YouTube, Instagram, even Twitter. Like Facebook. Twitter's the one.
Twitter, yeah.
You're not on Twitter, are you?
I am. I was on there years ago, but I never really liked the platform.
Yeah, oh god, I have to like physically just put the phone down, uninstall it sometimes. It's the worst. It is the cesspool. It's so toxic. It's so bad. I don't know what it is. It's awful. But yeah, that's the only one where I would say like it's probably best to just get off there. But that's what makes it so thrilling too. There's like, there's all this crap that's gonna get me pissed off. So there's almost like this enticement, this like perverse, like you want to see it.
It's like following someone you don't like on Instagram, but you're like, this is kind of giving me content, so I'm going to keep following them. I'm totally 100% guilty of that. There'll be someone or a page or whatever that just rubs me the wrong way, and I'm like, this is what's wrong with the world, but I'm going to keep following them because it might be a good conversation piece on a podcast to gripe about,
Exactly. A lot of guys get addicted to that emotion too, of that manufactured outrage. I think it's very addictive. Where I've had guys in the past said to me like, hey man, should I be checking my girlfriend's phone or like following her social media or like, cyber stalking her? I was like, don't do that, because it's a waste of energy. But it's been a long time, but there have been points in my life where I've been in relationships where, the girl's up to something she shouldn't be doing. And I remember catching myself in a moment where I was like, as I'm opening my phone, like, all right, I'm going to follow, I'm going to see what she posted today, where you almost kind of enjoy it. It's almost kind of sadistic. And you're like, no, I don't like this part of me. Let's go ahead and start to take this system offline internally, because it's holding me back. I could be at the gym right now. I could be out going for a cruise or watching the sunset or playing the guitar or going for a hike. I don't need to be following some chick on Instagram. Like, just trying to find something to get myself pissed off. And even if she posted something harmless, if you're looking for something that's going to piss you off, you will find it. So
absolutely.
I had to go through that activity. Again, this was years ago. It's like a decade ago, where I was like, we're not doing this anymore. Like, why would I care what some chick posts on social media?
Yeah.
If she's with another dude, then guess what? She's not with me, and I won't date her anymore.
There
and
you go.
That's the solution to that problem.
Oh, makes sense. Now, before we continue with this, great conversation, by the way, so far. I want to touch on your music a little bit. Do you have your music posted somewhere?
I'm just getting started. So I always enjoyed it when I was a kid. I think I did have some nascent talent that wasn't really developed in my family. It was more about academics or athletics. So music wasn't really given a priority. Something I kind of did quietly in my room. When I was bored, I'd tinker around, or, I'd write some stuff. But it was never really a skill that I nurtured or developed. And then fast forward, when COVID happened, I was locked down in California, and I was like, well, what do I do with all this spare time? I've been busting my ass my whole career. I wasn't used to having just back-to-back days during the middle of the week for weeks at a time, for months at a time, where I legally, well, not legally, a lot of that was illegal, but where dudes with guns are outside making sure that I can't go and live a normal life as I was just a couple weeks ago. It's like,
And you
what
were
do
in
I
San
do with all
Diego,
this free
right?
time?
Jaren,
Yeah, I was
you're-
in San Diego, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I picked up the guitar again, started strumming along, and then I I was more kind of like a rock guitarist or like a bassist in high school. So I always told guys when I was in high school, I always had there's always room in the band for me because I played bass. Like I preferred guitar, but it's like, hey guys, I'll play bass. Like, all right, yeah, you're in. So
Everyone always needs a
and then I
bassist,
really,
right?
That's true.
yeah, exactly, yeah, or like bassist or drummer. So it got to the point where changed my style completely. It's like just more California, like kind of like a Jack Johnson type style, like just strumming along, doing more rhythm. Like I don't have the time to learn all the scales and the intricacies and be the next Slash or virtuoso on the guitar. So I thought, you know what, it's just something I enjoy doing. It puts me in a good energy state. It helps me decompress for the day, and I sleep really well, and just puts me in just a good. I use a lot of woo-woo terms like vibe or vibration, or puts me in a different level of consciousness that I enjoy being in that doesn't have to be drug induced.
That's great, man.
And then I got to the point where I started singing a bit too, which really helps you literally get in tune with yourself. There's technique to it, and there's breathing exercises, and if you don't breathe a certain way, then you're going to be kind of tight and things are going to be tense. So I like to do activities in my free time that translate to other areas of my life. And it's something that always gave me enjoyment. It's something I always kind of regretted never pursuing as a kid. I know I'm not going to go on tour at any point as an adult, but turns out as I'm practicing more, and I hired a singer down here, a Mexican singer, who's trying to get a music academy off the ground. It's like, hey, well, I'll be your first gringo student. Showcase a white guy just nailing Mexican classic songs. And
Sweet.
she's got a huge following, so she's starting to. I think she did our first reel today. Started kind of posting some stuff. So I'm not really sure where I want to go musically. Again, it's something that was always intimate to me. I think I heard it might have been South Park. I think some satirical caricature, some show at some point where they said, my music's very private and I don't want to share it with the world. And someone's like, well, isn't that kind of the point of music? And that clicked in me. I was like, well,
It's true.
it's still private to me. It's something that I enjoy doing. I'll put it out there. People dig it. Cool. And if not, oh, well, it's something I'll keep doing. But it's something where, and we can get into this at some point, but as I've started unplugging from mainstream U.S. society, like I fell into the corporate culture. I was a very good academic. I was really into sports, and I always had to be the best at all these things that other people dictated my life. Is now, as I don't follow those structures anymore, I've set up my own structure for myself. Well, now I have room for activities that I enjoy doing. So I'll probably always have a place for music at some point. And then, like anything, as I keep doing it consistently, I'm surprised at the progress I'm making, and again, it's enjoyable. So I'll keep it up.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, Emmett's a musician himself, a very accomplished musician, actually.
Yeah, thank you.
And,
awesome.
he has a couple albums out as well.
Yeah. My parents were both played and went to school for it, so I kind of was brought up in it. But on that point of not knowing all the theory, my degree is in like music and theory and composition rather. So that's like my
Cool.
my area. However, I'm almost envious of a lot of musicians who just have a more organic approach. One of my favorite artists, her name is just Gregory and the Hawk. That's like her artist name. She has some of those beautiful songs, really intricate, sophisticated changes and everything on the guitar, but she doesn't know a lick of theory. She just does whatever sounds good. And I was even watching one of her like tutorial. Yeah, I was watching one of her like tutorial videos.
I know how
on
it
YouTube.
needs to sound, and it will sound that way, but I can't tell you why.
Yeah, exactly. It was funny because she was doing this tutorial video on her guitar, and she's like, "Here are the chords to whatever song," and she was just like, "I don't know what these are called. I'm just gonna like show you with my hands."
That's amazing.
She didn't know a single one, but it was like it's she's one of my favorite artists, so it's like there is something to that, and there is something that is taken away when you know theoretically what's going on in a song. You're like, oh, that's just a 1 6 4 5, it's just, but if you don't know, it's more, you get more of like that magic from it, and you can enjoy it more almost. Yeah. It's almost like it takes you off of that high when you realize like what it is.
I've always made the point because I have a friend like this. He's one of the guys in the Rich Cooper's top 10 or top 1% group. He is a classically trained pianist, and he's on the path to becoming professional. He's actually quite good, and but I think, and I've noticed with a lot of classically trained musicians where you put what's written in front of them and they have to follow it to perfection, to a T. So at one point he mentioned like, Jaren, I'd like to start a channel. I do these really crazy classical compositions, and they don't get the hits. Like, well, dude, do like a top 40 pop song, but with like a classical interpretation of it.
That stuff always
he
blows
looks
up.
like he looked like a deer in headlights. Like, what? He's like, if it's not written, I can't do it. Or my vocal coach down here, she's a classically trained musician, and like kind of like some of the more classical Mexican type styles.
Yeah.
And we did an activity a couple weeks ago. She's like, hey, I'm gonna put on a metronome, and like I'll just do some track on the keyboard. She's like, well, I want to see what your improvisation looks like. And then at that point, I had to stop her. I was like, hey, like, I've already got the lyrics in my head. I have a whole song written like 20 seconds in. My brain just gives it to me, and I just have to put it out there.
Wow.
And she was taken aback too. And then she's like, well, I can't write that way. And I've been in academy since I was 3 years old. And I was like, well, I haven't been. So like, I'm just kind of following.
It's like a different channel in the brain.
It absolutely is. Yeah, there's a lot of different approaches to music, and I'm more like you actually. I mean, I was classically trained as well, but trying to approach it from that like every exact note at the perfectly written exact time was like hard for me. I'd have to slog through that. And there are musicians who can read like that. Like, it's just the English language. There's the music. It's all there. It's perfect. But if you ask them to like jam with you, they're like, oh, I don't know what to do. It's like as soon as you have that,
I'm like that. Yeah.
You try to as soon as you try to introduce that organic, like, let's just improv, let's just jam. They have no idea what to do. But yeah, I've always been more of the mind that I need to, like, as long as I kind of know what's going on, then I can just vibe and play and get it. And I fake a lot of stuff when I'm given like sheet music to play. I gotta chart it. Like, I like analyze each section and say like, all right, so there's a C chord happening here, there's an A minor chord here, and then I never do it note for note. That's like, that would take so much more time for me. I have to like just get it, and then I put myself into it sort of, and it's therapeutic, just like you were saying. I don't know what I would do without music. It's the most therapeutic thing I know of.
It is, like, especially, I don't really have stressful days anymore since I've been working for myself for a while, but I was in the corporate circus for quite a while, and you'd come home just pissed off. Little things, little nits that okay, I'm in the zone, I'm clacking away at my keyboard, and Karen, I've literally worked with like 2 Karens, that's their real names, they tap me on the shoulder and pop my headphones. Hey, can you show me how to use the copier again? Like, I'm not an admin, I'm not an assistant, I'm not an intern, I'm in the middle of doing something. And then just those interruptions throughout the day are like, hey Jaren, we didn't really like the tone in this email you sent out. Like, I didn't think twice about it. I just let you know, like, hey, here's where we're at, here's where we're going, here's what I need from you to get it done on time. And then I just boom, rapid fire it out.
And it is amazing how that can affect your mood too.
Yeah, these little things add up during the day. And then music for me is just kind of like all right, like I'm entering my own reality. Don't care the world outside of me and my guitar and my voice right now. It just doesn't exist, and it does something to you. It's quite therapeutic. I was going to mention that the way that my coach told me there, she's like, you're actually good at composing music. Like, again, I'm not a music theory guy. If I could go back, I would have gone down that route, but who knows? My life might look a lot different if I did that route. I could be miserable if I went that route. But I'll hear something like this music festival. There's a couple of videos I took of like, wow, I really liked that specific sound. And then I'll isolate that sound, and then I'll find the note on the guitar, and then I'll try to build a melody around it. Or if there's already a melody, easier, I isolate the notes. I started as a bassist, so I'll go lower down on the fretboard, and then from there, I do know how to construct basic chords. But again, I don't know if it's like a major chord, minor chord. Like, okay, well, this is a C. Let's do a C chord. Well, now let's play around with the fingering. Like, is it a 7? Is it a 9? Is it this? And really, it's just kind of what my ear likes, and then it's also what complements my voice. So I don't necessarily know what I'm doing. I can identify the melody, find the notes pretty quickly, and then build the chord progression around it. And then I try to simplify it. Just play the same chords over and over, and that allows me to vibe and improvise and do really cool stuff in my voice that if I was focusing on technique on the guitar, which sometimes I do that, I'll be like, oh, I'm like half a beat off, or like, oh, I'm getting a little ahead, or oh, I started improvising and I went into a new song. How do I get back to the original one? Once those thoughts get in your head, then the whole composition just kind of falls apart in real time.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. I think yours is the way to do it. I even stuff I've written in high school, in hindsight, like once I can analyze like what's going on, I'm like, wow, this is actually really advanced stuff, because I just didn't know what I was doing. It was just whatever sounded good.
It just happened.
Yeah, it just happened. And actually now the stuff I do is less advanced, because I'm thinking about all the structures, all the rules, and it puts you in this box almost. So if I can get to a point where I'm thinking organically, that's like, I'm proud that I can do that, and that's some of my better stuff, I think. So that's golden. That's the way to go.
That's amazing.
And I'm glad you mentioned that too, because like on this show, it's probably it's pretty recent, these first couple of weeks, and it's something. I have a good vocal coach where she told me, she's like, hey, it needs to become a part of your identity. So like it's been very recent where like I'm a musician, because I always knew I had the talent, but in my head it was always like, well, I haven't gone to academies, or I didn't do the whole band route, or I didn't give it as much time, attention, and energy maybe as I should have, and there's always a bit of regret there. So like, okay, well, it's a hobby, it's something I do passively in my own time by myself, but now it's the point, like, when I listen to myself on playback, I still have a lot of room to grow, but I'm like, I don't sound too bad, And a trick that I'll do is I'll record a track, and then I'll put it somewhere randomly on a playlist, and I'm about my day on the gym, or it's playing in the background, and then all of a sudden something comes up, and I'm like, oh, I like that song. I'm like, oh shit, that's me.
Cool.
So
that's awesome. Yeah.
So when I get to that point where like I can't tell, like, oh my god, that's me. Let's change it. That sounds terrible compared to the other songs I was playing. Then I'm like, oh, okay, I'm again not professional, but definitely getting better.
Sounds like you're on the right track, man. Yeah. And I think that's, just like you guys said, how it's therapeutic for you.
Yeah.
That's something a lot of guys could also kind of connect with, because I know some guys who don't have hobbies and they're just fucking miserable. And when it comes back to like people being lost, people not being able to figure things out, being in a long-term slump or rut or whatever you want to call it, get a good hobby, man. You got to ask yourself, like, do I have a hobby? Do I have something that I love to do? It's like me personally, I know, I'm not a musician, but I love music. I love going to concerts. I collect vinyl. I'm a big music junkie.
Oh, me too. Yeah, I do the vinyl thing too.
Hell yeah.
Awesome.
Music is a huge part of my life, and I'd be super depressed without it. I love music. Same with movies. Big movie freak. I'm a movie junkie. And also making videos, making content. This is something that I'm sure you can agree with is like a lifesaver as far as like a great outlet, like something that I love doing that brings me a lot of joy. It's like sometimes when I edit something and have it posted, it's like, this dopamine rush. I'm just like, oh, I love this. I'm so excited about it. And I can't imagine my life, without that. I can't imagine not making content. I'd be so depressed. It wouldn't even be funny,
That's one thing I think I made a new, because a lot of guys in my types of communities, we have different ways of describing it. So for me, it's like my core values, core principles, core whatever. One guy calls like his core credo. And for me, it's just, they're just basic unbreakable rules. So one of them is that I need to create more than I consume in all areas of my life. So whereas I'd find myself a few years ago, okay, yeah, I've got a busted knee, or like during COVID, the first couple weeks in California, again, just at home smoking weed, like, all right, what do I do though? Oh, this sucks. I lost my job and I can't believe it. And the scamdemic, or I started falling into those tracks. And ideologically, I don't necessarily disagree with that, but I found that emotionally I was going down those thought waves, and I was getting really deep in them. And I was like, hey, you know what? Like this, regardless whether I get pissed off at this or not, I'm still locked down. I'm still stuck here. I still don't have a job. Like I'm not going to overtake the global world government just because I'm rallied up inside. So what am I going to do here? And at that point, I realized, okay, well, this external content consuming all this content is affecting me in a negative way. What I do in the free time, all of a sudden you turn YouTube off, you turn the TV off. You're like, what? Now I have all these hours of my day left. What do I do with it? So I made a rule for myself that I need to start creating more than I consume. And even tonight when I get off of this, before I go to bed, I'll put something on, or if like one of my buddies posts something, I like to watch, I like to watch podcasts or streams of my friends or whatnot. But
yeah, you could totally binge Unfazed review. Whatever, man.
but you know what I mean? Like I don't sit down like here's my dedicated YouTube session. I'm sitting on the couch doing nothing for all night, and I'm clicking through random videos, and it's like, okay, well, if I have nothing going on, I'll grab the guitar. And in terms of finding a hobby, a lot of guys, there's always excuses not to do anything. It's like not enough time, not enough money, not enough energy, not enough whatever. But for the guitar, I was a digital nomad when I picked it back up. Or that was my second phase after California, after the lockdown thing. So I bought a couple of guitars to the house, but I eventually bought like a little baby Taylor guitar, $350. Okay, well it's a minimal investment, but in terms of the hours of enjoyment I've gotten out of it, and then changing strings every now and then, it's totally worth it. I'm all in with that baby Taylor guitar and a couple string changes and an accessory here and there. I'm probably in for less than what I paid to go to EDC all weekend. And EDC was great, but I've already passed the Tuesday blues. Wednesday mentally, energy
Mm-hmm.
wise, I'll be right back at it. So the come down's over.
Yep.
But with the guitar, I can pick it up whenever I want. If
Yeah.
there's a moment of silence, or here in Mexico, it doesn't happen often where I am, but every now and then, like the power will go out, or there's an earthquake and they have to inspect the building or something. Like, all right, well, what do I do in the meantime? I can always just go pick up the guitar, and then I have instant entertainment for myself.
That's great.
It's
Yeah, it's like
absolutely
it's
true.
like endless ROI with something like that. It's just like literally you can just do it whenever. And it's like if it's acoustic, you don't even need electricity. It's just like, dude, here we go.
And I've mentioned this too on the dating topic. I don't know how North American women are. I've noticed that there's not an appreciation for the arts there like there used to be.
No, yeah.
I've literally hung out with friends or family where I'm like, all right, or I'm just hanging out by myself. I'm playing the guitar, and like my brothers come over, and then all of a sudden they bring a Bluetooth speaker and put on some music and drown me out. I'm like, dude, what are you guys doing? Like,
Yeah.
people in Latin America don't do that. So
Yeah.
when I play, I usually draw an audience. In fact, I caught my neighbor in the elevator today, and she's like, "Oh, how was your weekend? You were coming home at the time that you normally get up and go out and for your morning walk." I'm like, "Oh, I was at a music festival," and she had thought that I was a part of the music festival. She's like, "Oh, how was it? Were you the headliner, or were you on one of the side stages?" I'm like, "Well," I was like, "Well, that's a compliment." She's a much older lady, so
Yeah.
I was going to try to explain to her what EDM is and what my weekend actually looked
She's
like.
like,
But,
I'm actually Marshmallow. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, you would know otherwise. But actually, I saw him on Friday night.
oh, that's
wow.
awesome. That is so cool.
Oh, it was great.
That's cool.
And especially too, like every festival is different, but Mexico has it's a different cultural vibe. So there's an appreciation for the arts here. And one thing I tell guys in dating, like I've had people blow me up in the comments, especially on Rich Cooper's show, like, "Oh, Jaren's such a narcissistic piece of shit. He invites these girls over to listen to him play guitar and think they get nothing out of it." It's like, no, they get a lot of enjoyment out of it.
Yeah, what the
I
hell?
literally say in my Instagram, like, "Hey, hit me up for 420 snacks and snuggles, ... and a serenade if you're lucky." And
Yeah.
girls be like, "Hey, I want to come over and like have you sing to me." And
Yeah,
that sounds
it
nice.
really, it again, with Latin girls, people that or any culture that appreciates the arts, it really turns them on because you can take them to a new place without really saying much in way of words.
Yeah,
nice.
the idea, you're right about North America sort of
big time.
forgetting about the arts. It's years ago it used to be that sort of everyone could do it. There were lots more pianos in households. More people could read. Everyone had that sense of musicianship, and you could play, you could sing. It was more widespread.
Yeah.
But now it's like, it's like a niche thing to know an instrument at all,
Yeah.
and it makes people uncomfortable if you are like playing, or people think of it's like a weird thing, narcissist. That's bizarre.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
it has to be. It has to be either like this pre-designated, really popular thing, just a recording. It has to be like, if it's not like huge and already established in the pop culture sphere, then it's like weird. It's so
and it's kind of interesting like that. I'd love to touch on this with both you guys, because you're musicians. Think back to like the tropes from the 1990s. You'd see it on cartoons, you'd see it in movies. There'd always be like the sensitive 90s guy playing the acoustic guitar, right?
Yeah.
And he'd always
I remember the sensitive 90s guy. Yeah.
and he would always get the chicks, right?
Yeah.
Now that's not a thing.
Yeah.
And it's just like I do think there was a shift at some point, especially with North American women, where it's like it's not appreciated. And I don't mean all of them. I don't mean to lump them all together and be that way. I'm sure there's a lot of girls who are musicians and who appreciate that. But in my experience, few and far between.
Yeah.
And as I've mentioned, I've noticed that with people that are close to me, friends and family, where I'll be playing and it's kind of like they're annoyed. Like, "Hey, man, I'm trying to watch TV over here." I was like, "Hey, dipshit, I'm trying to do something classy over here." Like,
Yeah.
At what point did TV become more important than developing it doesn't even have to be music, just some sort of artistic craft that's beyond me. Whereas again, down here when I play, I don't even realize it, but my neighbors are like, "No, we listen to you." And before I moved to Mexico, I was in El Salvador working for a bit, and the power went out all the damn time down there, and it's hot, so your AC apartment turns into a sweatbox very quickly, and if you open the door, then all the mosquitoes are going to come in. So like outside, all right, put some DEET on me, and I'll go sit under a palapa and grab the baby Taylor and lay back in a hammock and start playing, and like half the neighborhood would come out and listen to me, and that was really cool. That's
great.
It doesn't happen in the U.S.
No, it doesn't. Yeah.
Not like it used to.
Play Freebird, Holmes.
And I would say,
Yeah, Freebird.
I play a lot of gigs out with this group. There's a drummer and a saxophonist in me. I'm on piano, and I would say, this is sad. I consider us fairly decent, but sometimes it feels like we're almost driving away the crowds because
Really?
it like the live music makes people uncomfortable. They're like, I don't want this. I just want like something on the radio kind of in the background.
Maybe it's not the right
people
venue.
like leave. I mean, sometimes people do come up, but yeah, then certain people are like. You can tell they're annoyed and then just fucking leave. It's like, it's so just sad. Yeah. And our music's not particularly loud or anything. They can still carry on a conversation, but they're just like, they don't know what to do about it. They think it's awkward and they just like dip. It's so
And you guys are doing more
bizarre.
like jazz stuff, right?
Yeah, we're a jazz trio, but it's a weird phenomenon. I've definitely noticed.
Even I noticed in places like the last time I was in Austin, Texas, I remember maybe a decade or like 15 years ago, you'd be walking down, 6th Street or somewhere adjacent, and you'd always hear, at some point you'd hear just a really sweet guitar. And a lot of the times it was more divier places, and you'd walk in, and I remember like last time I was going through Austin, went into a bar, just a phenomenal guitarist, and there's nobody in there. Granted, it was like a Tuesday night and it was raining outside and it was kind of cold, but at one point I invited a homeless guy and I was like, dude, I'll pay for all your beers. Like someone has to hear this. It's just so good. And those places are cool because I was able to meet the guitarist directly and talk to the manager, and then he's getting a little bigger now. He's recording with what's her name, Nancy Wilson from Heart. So they've done some tracks together.
What's the guitarist's name?
Eric Tessmer. Tessmer.
Cool.
Very good. He released an LP on vinyl, which when I left San Diego, I sold all my vinyl. That's one of the things I regret because I do the minimalist thing, but I wish I would have kept my vinyl, at least sent it to maybe my mom's house where I grew up and be like, hey, just take care of, you're going to, she's older, you're going to live here. You're going to live out your days here. Just take care of this vinyl for me. But I sold it for dirt cheap. And
I'll tell you what, Jaren, I have quite the collection. I'm going to mail you a vinyl. We'll talk about some of your musical preferences. I'm going to mail you a vinyl.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I didn't have an extensive collection. I think I maybe had like 300, 320, 340 records, and now I have maybe a couple dozen. Just the albums I really enjoy listening to over and over again. But Tessmer's album, that's one I let go as far as part of the bunch. But yeah, walking down 6th Street in Austin, you'd hear just these beautiful melodic blues guitars from every corner. And most recently when I went there, it's just all your top 40, just dog shit, degenerate, stupid fucking music. Like
that sucks.
EDC was cool. Like a lot of these DJs do real cool mixes, especially when you're in an altered state of being. It takes you to another level. I view it more as a fantasy, whereas with like rock music, I like seeing my musicians play in front of me. And a lot of times, like again, walking through Austin or most of your major American cities, it's just the same shit over and over again. And I even asked my vocal coach the other day, she's like, hey, do you ever been to like see this pop star? I was like, I don't go to pop concerts because I know they're not singing. They have this little teeny tiny microphone. They're doing acrobatics. They're jumping up and down. And then I was like, okay, tell me Christina Aguilera, Britney Spears, Rihanna, Beyonce. Tell me they're actually singing when they're doing all this shit. Whereas with me, it's all about posture and composer and okay, make sure you're breathing here. And like my coach is very strict with the way I position myself. Like I couldn't get down and do 10 push-ups and then sing a perfect line. It's just not going to happen. So I don't view that stuff as music.
Yeah, I don't either. And that used to be a big point of conjecture. There's a hilarious old video of a live performance by Nirvana, and it was early on in that process, and I guess whatever venue they were doing like made them do that because they were going to record the whole live.
Exactly.
Like Kurt Cobain hated it. He hated that they had to do it like that it was all pre-recorded and they were just faking it. So he intentionally you're right. He intentionally bombs the whole thing. He's like strumming way slow and he doesn't have any fingers on the board.
And he starts singing like operatic. Or no, he starts singing kind of like Morrissey. He's like,
it's a hilarious video. And even like the drummers in the back like doing the slow-mo thing. And of course it doesn't sync up at all with the song, and the song sounds like perfect.
Yeah, they were totally trolling.
So that used to be, I mean, real musicians want to actually really play the song.
Oh, yeah.
But what they're doing is just like this, it's beyond that. They're just this icon, this actor almost. It's just, it is all about the dance moves and then...
Their brand.
Yeah, it's a brand. It's all about the brand.
110%. That's a bummer to hear about Austin because we went like about 8 years ago.
2015 or 16?
Yeah, right around there. We went for the Austin Film Festival, and we ended up barely doing anything associated with the film festival and just partied our asses off. And it was right around Halloween, and we had so much fun.
Yeah.
Talk about Latinas. Oh, my God. Yeah. Amazing. We had a fantastic time. But I think that was still on the cusp. It was about 2015 where there was a lot of good live music when we were there.
There really was.
So there must have been, at some point in between, in the last 7 or so years, 8 years where something changed. Because That sucks to hear that, the music was lacking when you went. You went
Yeah.
this past year, you said?
No, it was a couple years ago, maybe
Oh,
like
that's a bummer.
2019 or
Oh,
so.
gotcha.
Something
Holy shit.
happened, I think.
Yeah.
Not to say it's his fault, but like the whole between the 2016 and 2020 election, I think that was more a referendum on culture. And during
Yeah.
that time period, culture it just degraded so much more. It was already on like a slight linear path
Yeah.
towards degeneracy, but it took a leap. And really, there's nothing really good come out anymore. I tell people here all the time, like, hey, do you go to the movie? Like, why don't you go to the movie theater? COVID's over. I'm like, American culture is just not putting out good cultural artifacts anymore.
It's time for a
kind of
renaissance.
sad.
Yeah, it's time for a
It
renaissance.
is,
Kind of
yeah.
like what there was, with cinema in the 1970s, how things, they started, giving more chances to young filmmakers, starting to kind of have different stories come out. It's like that was really important for cinema. I'd love to see something like that happen again. Same with music, like when New Wave came out and punk came out. It's like that was so important, and like we haven't had anything like that in a long time.
Speaking of film, your point about movies, it's so true and it's so sad. We've been talking about how film is really just like nigh on dead.
Yeah.
There's rarely in recent years has there been a movie that I've seen in theaters that felt like this was made because they loved the idea. They thought it had something to say.
Really?
They really were
They had
passionate
a
about
story
it.
to tell.
Yeah,
A lot
right.
of movies don't have stories.
Yeah,
anymore.
yeah.
I'm like, what am I
Everything's-
watching?
yeah.
I'm watching a bunch of special effects,
Yep.
but
Yeah, 100,
that's kind of low IQ entertainment. I
Yeah.
don't need to see a bunch of bright lights and explosions. Even
Yeah.
at the music festival,
Yeah.
like, okay, if it's just a random bright light flash in your face, you get annoyed pretty quick.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
when they architect and they put it all together and like, wow, this is a production.
Yeah.
This is really cool.
exactly.
And there's something about, I'm sure you'll agree on this 100% because you are, you have like an outsider perspective now. Music and movies totally have been dumbed down.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know if that's in an effort to make them more digestible worldwide, where it's like you don't need to focus too much on the content, just, like you said, bright lights and explosions and repetitive beats, for the music. But it's noticeable. Like, it's really noticeable. Like, the quality of things has really dropped. And that's the only way I can put it, is like it feels like everything's been really dumbed down.
And I've noticed even where I live that people here notice it too, although they view it from an outside perspective. Like, what, like, people have never been to the U.S. They notice something's off. They ask me, what's going on with your culture? The U.S. used to be a beacon of light for the entire world.
yeah.
It's what everyone aspired to be. And now it's just, we're kind of laughable, actually, which
we are,
it's
yeah.
funny. It's funny being a foreigner because people will be like, you don't strike me as your typical gringo. And I always tell them I'm a classical American.
Yeah,
And we all laugh around the table, but I'll be the first to say it. Yeah, the U.S. culture's been shit for a while now.
yeah.
And
The
it happened very quickly.
The culture's bad. You got Grandpa Joe in there saying God knows what. Politically, it's like the other countries don't.
Manchurian candidate.
I know. It's like the other countries don't respect our government, and it's like, and like you said, there is something lacking. It's almost like that reality TV culture on steroids, to the point where it's like, okay, what's going on, man? There's like really a lack of authenticity to almost everything right now.
I think the American spirit's dead, to take it more to kind of an ethereal type level. But I think these are all byproducts or symptoms of just the American spirit just not being a thing really anymore, which is sad. It still lives in a lot of people. It lives in a lot of foreigners, really. They still have this idea of the American dream. And if I only went to the U.S., I could do this. And I have to be the guy that breaks it down to them. A lot of people are surprised. Like, why don't you live in your own country? It's the place where everyone wants to go. I'm like, well, yeah, maybe 50 years ago.
Yeah.
But now all the smart people are getting out of there.
Yeah.
Or at least at some point they've gone through the mental activity of like, what would it take to get out of here? Or what would a life abroad look like? Where would I go? Most people have begun asking themselves these questions. And the U.S., it used to be kind of a criticism point, maybe even 20 years ago, whereas, Americans never leave their own country. I'm like, well, yeah, our country's huge and it has everything. Why would you leave?
Yeah. No, I totally get that.
And
but
you don't hear those conversations anymore.
Oh, it's so true. And you make a valid point, too, because I feel like within the past couple years, we've both discussed the idea of like, maybe it would be cool to go somewhere abroad. It's not, in the immediate future for me at all. But is it something I would consider for the future? Definitely. It's like I still love America, but that's why it makes me so sad to see, parts of it get so shitty.
Yeah.
I almost don't recognize it anymore. So when I go back to California, which I go to California fairly often, it's a quick flight from here to Tijuana. You walk across the border. They have a pedestrian bridge between the Tijuana airport and San Diego. Super convenient. If I were to leave my house right now in 3 hours, I could be in, 3-4 hours, I can be in San Diego. It's super quick. And it's cheap. It's like $50 each way. So I go to San Diego fairly often. And even just going there, taking a time out from American culture for a couple months and then coming back, you get little checkpoints into where things are going, and you can notice trends. And I noticed that California in general, it's not trending positive. It's not heading in the right direction. And the fact that some of these beautiful, like I'm from the West Coast originally, I love the West Coast.
Oh yeah,
beautiful territory, beautiful cities, just breathtaking views, and the weather is perfect most of the time in Southern California. And just watching it just get worse in front of my very eyes.
Yeah.
It's almost kind of sickening to me, and then it angers me, the fact that no one cares.
Yeah, 100%.
San Diego's been overtaken by homeless people downtown. LA, LA and San Francisco are a bit ahead of it, but San Diego, I used to be like, well, at least San Diego's not like the rest of California. No, yeah, it is. Now it is, and it gets exponentially worse every time I go there, to the point where people like me, like the young up and coming capitalist class or the productive class, I don't think I have maybe one friend there still who was born and raised there, and even he wants to get out of there. Something happened to that place. Like the soul has just been sucked out of California, and you see it in front of your very eyes. And then when you say these things to people, you're like, hey man, this guy's literally taking a shit in the street. Like this guy's fucking some nasty chick that has like maggots eating her leg, like as you're driving to work. How is this not a problem to you?
Yeah.
Oh man, you're just insensitive, or you're one of I got called this recently. You're one of those colonists. I'm like, a colonist? What are you talking about? Like, what does that even mean? Because again, I don't pay attention to nonsense. That's for stupid
that's
people.
Total bullshit.
Oh my god.
Like, what are you talking about? Like, the last time I was in San Diego, like some homeless guy cut off some chick's head.
Jesus Christ.
The fact you haven't heard about it didn't even make national news, because it's just so
There's
common
so
now
much
in the U.S. for like degeneracy. Yeah, it's crazy.
It's so sad. Yeah, I used to feel that way with San Diego too. It's like San Diego is one of my favorite places. Old Town San Diego is like one of the most peaceful, beautiful spots. Like I love going to Old Town San Diego.
It's overrun with homeless now.
That's so sad to me,
They took
man.
that over like 5 years ago.
That's so sad to me, man. That just bums me out. And it's pretty bad over here too. We're in Phoenix, and I actually did a video on the channel highlighting the homeless problem here. I mean, it's like, it's not California level yet, but it's not good. It's trending in a really, really bad direction. So it's an epidemic all over the country, man.
And not to get too political, but I always ask why. Like I was in Miami. I was in Miami a couple weeks ago, and I noticed there were some homeless people there. I was at CVS getting some electrolytes and some beef jerky for the day, because Miami is one of those cities where you get there and you have like a plan, but you just end up partying the whole time. So.
Got to load up on your Pedialyte.
And then all of a sudden this just wall of smell overtook my senses. I'm like, God, what is that? It smells like a fucking traffic dump. Like if you're doing yard work and you have to take your clippings to like the actual dump where they weigh your truck, and then you dump it off, and it's just a big mound of trash. It's exactly what it smelled like. And I turned around and saw a homeless lady. I was like, oh, okay, well, it's like the first one I've seen all week. But I think, granted, I was between Brickell and South Beach the whole time. But I saw maybe 2 or 3 homeless people the entire time. And then you go to San Diego, and they're just everywhere. You go to any 7-Eleven in that town, they're there. You go to any gym, even in a nice neighborhood, you can't go in the locker room because homeless people sleep in there, or they shower in there, or they keep their shit in there. There's Band-Aids and needles and shit all over the floor. So I always ask stuff like, okay, well, we know the answer, but let's say it's a rhetorical question. What is Miami doing that San Diego's not doing? Because they're both great cities, but one of them went one way and the other way went another way. Granted, it is an epidemic across the U.S., but at the level it is in most major West Coast cities, you don't see that in some of your more southern cities. Let's just say that.
Exactly.
That's true.
I mean, you look
it's
at
there, but not to the degree.
Yeah, I mean, just as you said, DeSantis and Newsom. It's like, but not to get too deep on it, but I hear you.
Yeah, which I've heard that might be the ticket, but who knows? Again, I don't follow in that stuff anymore. There is a YouTube channel I used to like that does like political commentary. So every now and then I'll see a video pop in my feed. I'm like, okay, well, he did one today on El Salvador's president. And I was in El Salvador for that election when he took power. I go to El Salvador at least once or twice a year, just kind of pop in. It's a very small country, population and size-wise. It's about the same as San Diego County. So when I say, like, at one point, not the current one, but a couple mayors ago, I met him at some company function. it's not outside the realm of possibility because there's a couple million people in that county. Well, Salvador's the same way. So being a foreigner who has worked down there, I know people there. Let's just say that, and I'm very impressed with their new government. So this guy's named Steve Turley did a video on the new Salvadorian president. I keep calling him new because he was new when I was there. It was like 2 or 3 years ago now. But it went from like the murder capital of the world to the safest country in the Americas by getting rid of all of them MS-13. They're all in jail now. He built this like new super prison, and there's just not crime there anymore. And it's a pretty simple solution. And that's what it's. So again, it's not like, I'm going to like go down the political rabbit hole, but I saw this video pop up. And
our audience likes it. You can feel free to dip your toe in.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Feel free to dip your toes.
It's like, okay, cool. Like, do you not get it that if you have a murder problem, you just fucking throw away all the murderers and just make them disappear from society, and then you don't have a murder problem anymore? This isn't a fun thing to say, but like more of your like communist dictatorships, like Cuba is remarkably safe in terms of when it comes to murders. It just doesn't happen there. Right. They have petty crime. They have thieves and scammers and shysters that'll rip you off, but they won't break any laws doing it. Or places like North Korea, I'm assuming they don't have like a mass shooter problem like the U.S. does. Right. They have other problems that are caused by the government, but they don't have some of the cultural problems that countries where, we gotta. Oh, well, this guy's only a 5th-time offender, so we'll go ahead and let him out early. Oh, he raped someone else. Yeah. Like, what do you think was going to happen?
Yeah, the leniency
how do people not know these?
Yeah, and dude, I see so many times on the fucking news here, especially in Phoenix, where you'll hear about a murder or you'll hear about, some horrific crime that happens.
And everyone knows who did it. They know where they're at.
And it'll be like this dude where it's like, oh, well, he was in jail already twice, but, he got out again. Yeah. And it's just like, you had him. It's just like, so I don't know what the solution is, but there's too many scumbags out there, and there's definitely a lot of leniency.
And as we were saying before, there is this toxic, false idea of tolerance that's really just laziness. Yeah, everyone wants to be tolerant of these people, and it's perpetuating the issue. It's bad for everyone. It's bad for the people they think they're being tolerant to. It's bad for them. They don't understand that sometimes cracking down and being tough is the best for everyone.
You know what I think's going to happen if the United States continues being so lax with us essentially not having a border? I'd love to hear your perspective on this. I think what's gonna happen eventually is, since the government doesn't seem to give a shit, as far as the federal level, I think what you're going to start seeing is a lot of people becoming vigilantes. And I'm not, for the record, I'm not condoning it. I'm not saying go out and do anything crazy, guys. But it wouldn't surprise me at all if you start to see that as a trend and you start seeing people taking matters into their own hands.
Militias are a real thing. And
so it
kind of
really,
for that situation.
really wouldn't surprise me at all.
Yeah.
I mean, they have vigilante groups down here. Back when the drug war was in full stream, late 2000s, even early 20. What do you call them? 2010s, 20-teens.
Yeah.
That time frame. That the drug war was real bad here in Mexico, and in some of these small towns, like the old timers, like the alpha grandpas of the town, they arm their entire family, and you'd see it on the news here in Mexico all the time. Badass. They're like, hey, cartel's not welcome here, and they'd clean house, and like kind of. I like old Western type movies where I'm rewatching 1883 where
nice.
Have you guys seen that one? Yeah.
Actually no, it's on my I have Paramount now, and I'm like, I need to watch that because I know, isn't Sam Elliott in it?
Yeah, it's got some good actors. It's super good, but there's a point where they get like robbed by some bandits or something, and they go to the nearest town, and the sheriff is like, "Oh, I'm going to deputize you," and they just go into a bar and just like point out who these bandits and burglars were, and they just execute them there in real time. And as an American, you're kind of like, "Yeah, fuck these guys." They're robbing and raping settlers. Like, okay, that single bullet solution works, and that's what these vigilante groups did in Mexico. And
that's badass.
The way I see it is with the open border thing. It depends on who you are, but a lot of the wealthiest, like elite people, like they have no reason to leave Mexico. They're here. So when Trump said it years ago, pissed a lot of people off, but everyone in Mexico knows it. It's just kind of no shit. Like they're not bringing their best. There's a reason the Mexican government doesn't give a shit about illegal immigration.
For sure.
In fact, one of their top revenue generators is remittances, where you go there and work, and like the money comes back here. So it's an economic leak for the U.S., which I don't know how economists don't see that. Yeah. I'm a regular dude, and it's pretty abundantly clear. But we got to redefine the notion of experts. But experts like, oh yeah, it's not a problem here. Well, no, yeah, it is. And then these border communities, you're seeing a lot of the stuff. I grew up in an agricultural community, so when I was a kid, our workers used to be like Russians and Bosnians, and then or no, it was Russians, and the Iron Curtain came down. So a lot of them, I don't know if they went home or they took off, or maybe they assimilated. Usually, second or third generation in, you do assimilate to your new culture to a degree.
Mm-hmm.
We had Bosnians for a bit when there was that whole conflict in the late '90s, and then the Mexican peso, when NAFTA was first passed, completely tanked the Mexican economy. Their currency failed. So that's when we started getting that first wave of Mexican immigrants, later to be Central American immigrants.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, when I was a kid, like I grew up in a pretty predominantly white community. And all of a sudden, like there's like one Mexican kid in class, or like two. And then by the time I graduated from high school, like as white kids that grew up in that town, we were in the minority. And graffiti everywhere and gang shit and shootings, and our wrestling coach got murdered for a gang initiation, and
Jesus.
I saw that firsthand in my life, which
Yeah.
I don't see that here living in Mexico. Again, I live in a very nice neighborhood,
Yeah.
in like a more cosmopolitan type town, but it exists. But I'd be interesting to see what the crime statistics. I know Mexico City's gone down considerably. They hired Rudy Giuliani years ago to enact his broken window policy, and it's done very well here. They still, to a degree, follow that, but I think if you take out
I'm
the
sorry, I got to plead ignorance on that. What's the broken window policy? I don't know that.
Oh, when Rudy Giuliani was mayor of New York, when was it? Like '90s or so? I think it was like New York kind of has its waves. Yeah. Like it was just a degenerate cesspool of shitheads and crime and delinquency. And it was to the point where he's like, hey, even for minor nonviolent offenses, we're going to throw the book at you. And then it's like, so if we catch you tagging an overpass, you're going to jail for a long time. And then I believe the theory was that if you can nip crime at the bud, because like most people don't wake up and they're like, hey, I'm going to be a serial killer. There's an escalation. There's a progression to that. Yeah. The gateway drug to violent crime. Well, let's go ahead and get him at that gateway stage. So that was kind of the theory. Cleaned up the town quite a bit, and then he was elected mayor. I think was he police chief or something before that. So he has a consultancy firm, and there's sometimes major cities globally will have him come and redo the police force. So he came down here, fired like half the police force. They were all corrupt. Redid the way they did their taxis. They used to have like kidnapped taxis down here, so you had to get like certain colors and certain zones with certain numbers on the license plates. And now that just doesn't exist anymore. There are still kidnappings every now and then, but usually if you stay out of those types of criminal networks, you don't really have much to worry about. But going back to the border thing, a lot of these problems, you're importing these problems. And again, this is a delicate topic. A lot of times I say it publicly on YouTube, but there's a racial element to a lot of Latin societies too, and they're very prejudiced. You'll notice here. I'll let your viewers use your imagination. So if you've ever been to Mexico, the lower class, just guess what they look like, and then the upper class. So look at the billboards, look at the magazines, look at all your telenovela actors, look at all of your professional singers, people that are in films and prominently displayed in the culture. What do they look like? They look a lot different from the people that cut your gardens, cook your food, come and clean your houses. And again, I'll let you use your imagination, but I'm pretty sure you guys all know where I'm going there. Well, when Mexico and Latin America in general used to work on a caste system. So when people from the lower castes are fleeing their homelands and they're coming to the U.S., and a lot of the problems in Latin America was that the Spanish never successfully really civilized everyone. They came to extract their resources and enslave them, and then fast forward, there's a revolt. But those old systems are still in place. Maybe not like legally, it's not on the books, but their cultural systems or institutions that are still in place.
You can kind of feel it and notice it.
You see the social stratification. Well, these are coming into the U.S. now. So the way I see it, like the people that are for open borders, let's be honest, what they want is they want a permanent underclass. They want the voting bloc, because a lot of these people are low IQ. I tell people here all the time that they're like, oh, if only I could go to the U.S. I'm like, bro, if you can't figure out how to be successful in your own country, in your own language, where you know everyone, where you have your family, you have your social structures, what makes you think you're going to be uber successful in the U.S.? You can still do it. The American dream's a lot harder to achieve now than it was before, but usually it takes 2 or 3 generations or so. Like, give it an honest to God go here where you're at and see what happens. But you're getting a certain class of people with this open border type policy, because people of means, they'll go through the official channels. I have friends all the time. Hey, I have an appointment at the embassy. What do I need to keep in mind? It's like what the U.S. Embassy is looking for is for means to support yourself and for enough socioeconomic, political, family ties to not stay in the country illegally, overstay your visa, which that's how higher class people illegally immigrate. But people that don't have those means, well, they walk across the desert. A lot of them are victims of crime, violent crime, sexual crime on the way up. It's a very unfortunate reality. It is a human rights major issue at a global level. If you are a military planner, there is national security issues. So from any way you look at it, there is a major problem there, and people just don't talk about it because again, the mainstream ideology in the U.S. is like, oh, well, we're being acceptable and with open arms and open hearts. Like, no, you're importing problems that other countries have not been able to solve for 500 years. What do you think is going to happen? Let's close our eyes and just watch this scenario play out. And we're seeing it playing out. And now it's funny that the Hispanic voting bloc is growing. It's going more towards the right, which I've told the Republican Party for years and years, most Hispanics, they're very conservative. So a lot of black people are too. So like once you start putting the LGBTQ 2+3 whatever in their face, they don't like this stuff. They like the free education, they like the free insurance, they like the free they like all the free shit. A lot of people that are lower IQ or that come from lower classes of other societies, they lean more towards that way. They believe the narrative that they've been exploited, which in Latin cultures they have historically been exploited. So that narrative works really well for them. But the minute you start propagandizing their kids, then all of a sudden they're like, no, we're not going to do this.
Yeah, that's super interesting. And I think a lot of the people too, what I've noticed, a lot of the people, especially on the far left, are usually in pretty safe places when they're saying, hey, let's be idealistic and let's do the white picket fence version of things where we have open borders, right? Because the picture they're painting is, these nice Mexican families coming up, but what they don't realize is like you said, you get a lot of bad people coming up, and it's not just Mexico, it's all of South America and
Central America,
At this point, it's the entire world. You've got essentially an open door along the southern border, and anyone from anywhere can come in. And reality check, guys, it's not all good people coming through. And if you look at, some people say, oh well, you're being insensitive or whatever. A, fuck off. But B, where am I going with this?
You just have to live in reality.
Yeah, you have to. I mean, there was one guy who reached out to me on our Discord, and he told me that the way I put that, if you think of it as like a door being locked on your house and then leaving it open, and eventually, bad people are going to come in. He said that was an eye opener for him, and he's like, oh, I never really thought of it like that. Because look at every other country. Imagine trying to immigrate to Australia. It's like they're going to put you through a whole bunch of different checks. You're going to have to go through a whole bunch of different things.
Still, I believe.
You can't just wander across. America is the only place where you can do that. And, people say, well, that's the American dream. It was, originally founded on immigrants. Yeah, but people had to go through Ellis Island. There were channels to make sure people were healthy, things like that. And now it's like if you just open the floodgates and let everyone in, it can lead to a lot of problems. And we're at a point, too, we're at a tipping point where there's a lot of overpopulation issues, and the people here, there's so many homeless people who are U.S. citizens. How can we even think about, allowing millions of more migrants to come in? It's like, it's not going to work. It's not working, for the people who are already citizens.
Well, the big problem is it creates a gray economy. So I remember it was fairly recent, within the last couple of months, I saw that Oscar Mayer had a plant somewhere in East County, San Diego, and they were caught paying illegals like $3 an hour or something crazy like that. Like, okay, in California, you can't get ahead on a $3 an hour wage.
No.
And it's just impossible. So a lot of money is going to go back in Mexico. What does that mean for the people that are physically in California? They're going to live in squalor. They're going to get some flat or some storehouse, and they're going to squeeze a bunch of families into there, and they're being exploited, which is exactly what you say. You don't want to do these people, but
exactly.
Again, if you have two eyes and you connect it to a brain, you can see very quickly that they're creating an immigrant underclass that for their gardeners and their cooks and their chauffeurs and exactly that. And they do it too, like even in big tech. A lot of people don't talk about this, but I remember catching this for the first time where in some of the more North County San Diego, we have like a lot of like your big tech agencies. There's a lot of biotech there. There's a lot of like oceanography and stuff like that. All of a sudden they started building these places where they would have they'd have rents for like maybe $4,000 or $5,000, but they didn't have a limit on occupants there. And I started looking more into it and asking the people people that were from like India and China primarily, that hey, they'd come over and work for these tech companies on these sponsored immigrant visas by their employer. And I remember there was a guy I worked for. I do a lot of corporate consulting, so there was a company I worked for. And I worked a lot with their Indian employees, their lower level ones, like more junior associate, your admin type level employees. and you get to know people when you work with them. We go out and drinks, and you become friendly with them, and you get to know what their life looks like. And I started hearing the story over and over again, like, where do you live? Oh, I live with my mom. Or, we can't go to my place. I'd be embarrassed, like, hey, like, 3 different parts of my family here, like my mom, my cousin, the aunt, and then all their kids.
Yeah.
And there's like 8 to 13 people in like a pretty nice area of town. And then it occurred to me, the more you talk to these people, like, oh, so what happens is they come and work for these California tech companies. They get paid a third to half the wages that Americans would get paid. And then these developers, because it's hard to develop new living space in California. I think a lot of what leads to the homeless problem there, amongst other factors, obviously. But one of the big ones is lack of housing, obviously, or affordable housing. So they cram all these immigrants in there, just like they used to do back in the 1800s. And you hear about uncontrolled capitalism, but it's the Democrats doing that now, so it's okay. Or it's your tech conglomerates or your big cabal. The word we use in Spanish is called cartel, like drug cartels. That's who these people are. They're doing exactly that. So it's really funny, and they're just warehousing these Indian immigrants. And then what happens is, if they put them in unfair working conditions, like, hey, we need you to clock off at this time, or hey, we're not going to pay you overtime. Well, if they complain, then guess what? They get fired and they lose their immigrant status. They lose their sponsorship and they have to go home. So like, there's an indentured servant class, even with legal immigrants on the West Coast or most of your Democrat cities. Your big tech companies, they all do this. If they say otherwise, they're fucking lying to you. And then for the servant class, you use your Hispanic. So now when I go to California, I'm called a colonist. I'm like, no, like, you're still a bunch of white people exploiting minorities. Like, what do you do?
Yeah.
It's
And
the
irony
you guys
is,
have
too,
always been executing.
Yeah, and the irony is too, especially with big tech, they are, the first ones to be ultra woke and to be, very in your face about it. But like we were talking about, actually, I believe on our last podcast, it might have been the one before that. One thing I've noticed working in tech, myself, a lot of it feels very forced and very fake. A lot of it is
no one
like,
believes it.
I know. A lot of it is like, oh, this is what is trending right now, essentially. We have to appear woke. We want to basically cover our asses. So we're going to really shove this training down your throat that's ultra woke. And, it seems very phony and very artificial. And it seems like they're doing it just to cover their asses.
Yeah, I worked for one of the big 4 companies for a couple of years, up until recently, a couple months ago. And we'd go to conferences, and it was a pain in the ass to plan these events, because it'd be like, oh, hey, we can't, like, what's our swag stuff we all get, marketing term, or like what giveaways are we going to do at the booth, or what are we going to give people, what kind of takeaways. Like, it's usually like a water bottle or like a thumb drive or something corporate branded. And we normally just do water bottles that came part of our sponsorship package. And there's one event, they're like, well, this is a sustainable event, so we can't do that. I'm like, oh yeah, of course, California event, whatever.
Yeah.
Show up and there's no plastic allowed. So what do these vendors do? They're using styrofoam, which is way worse for the environment than plastic. Like, guys, like, am I the only one who sees this?
Yeah.
And again, this is a big 4 firm. A lot of smart people work there.
Yeah.
In your tech experience, they don't hire dipshits to work for these companies. But why am I the only one raising my hand? Like, hey, does no one else see this? Am I the only person who thinks this is funny or ridiculous or just nonsensical? And then you're a pariah. You're an outcast. You don't fit the corporate culture. You're not aligned with the mission. I'm like, what's the fucking mission?
Exactly.
It's nonsense.
Yeah, they're just checking a box to just kind of protect themselves. It's like they just want to appear, like they're going along with the narrative, even though I think 9 times out of 10 they don't actually believe it themselves.
And that's what, to go back to your very first question on this stream, like, why do guys fall in a rut? It's like, well, you're force fed these things, and what do they call it? Like, your heart of hearts or your deepest core. Or again, like, if you're into the higher self thing, it's bullshit, and it's really tough when you're not in a position to like the Indian immigrant I was talking about. This one guy told me, he's like, hey, like, I don't like the investment, or I don't like the investor, I don't like the direction of the company. It's terrible. There were like this guy was sick, so he needed like his health insurance. So they kind of held that over his head. Like, if you're a dissident, if you speak out, there goes your visa, there goes your health insurance, which would essentially be a death sentence for him. So, and then you wonder, like, even your average Americans, guys that don't know anything else, they're not immigrants. Like, well, where else are you going to go? What else are you going to do? All these industries, they started getting outsourced in the early 90s. They're gone now. You have guys that are like freaking out over the AI thing. Anyone who's a copywriter, sorry, that's not an industry anymore. You need to learn the AI tools. If you don't, you're redundant. You're irrelevant.
Yeah,
you don't have a living anymore. So you do all these things, and I talk about this when guys ask like the dating topics too. Oh my god, I can't believe my wife left me or cheated on this guy or whatever. It's like, or the fitness thing. Hey, I followed the food pyramid the FDA put out in the 50s, and but these people don't know any better. Like they do everything right and they still get fucked, and then they wonder like, why am I depressed? Why am I in a rut? Why can't I get ahead in life? And it's because they've been spoon fed just a bunch of horse shit, and that's a really tough position for guys to find themselves in. Like, what do you do at that point?
Exactly. Well, one thing I can say, and the reason I reached out to you is because you and Rich Cooper's group, especially, the 1%, generals meetings and all those, really helped me out personally. There was a point last year.
Oh, cool. I'm glad to hear that.
There was a point last year where I was down, man. I was like at a previous job where I was just miserable. I was really in a low point, low self-esteem, wasn't taking care of myself, drinking too much. I was just at a point where it was like, I wasn't happy at all, You
don't recognize yourself. You're like, okay, 5-year-old me, when you're like, what do you want to be when you grow up? An overweight alcoholic who's
100%.
wallowing in his own self-despair.
100%. Yeah, and I was wallowing for sure. And the only solace I really had at this point was I was just getting over an injury too. I'd hurt myself pretty bad. And it was just, everything had kind of compounded and culminated. And the only solace I really got once I started feeling better was I started going on really long walks, and I was listening to a lot of your content and a lot of Rich's content. And there were points, especially listening to those 1% generals meetings, where it just like elevated me mentally. It just kind of, over time, it wasn't instantaneous. It took, weeks and weeks and weeks. But
it's a lot of work.
I started to get into a healthier mindset, and I started thinking, okay, I got to pull myself out of this. No one's going to do it for me. I got to start kind of, like things were starting to slip with the channel, and like I said, I was really stuck in this job that I hated. So, I started, looking for ways out. And eventually, as time went on, I started to get a little healthier. I found a new job. I got a different job that has a slightly more flexible schedule so I can do more videos, which is fantastic. And I'm just in a much better place. And I do think a big part of that was listening to you guys. So thank you very much, man.
Yeah, thanks. I definitely appreciate that. Which, when you're on the consumer side of content, you don't realize how important it is to reach out and be like, hey, man, really dig what you're doing, or that message really resonated with me.
Yeah.
Now that I'm doing more of the creative stuff, I do that. However, especially when you're like a newer type channel like mine, I think I've been around for a year, maybe a little more than a year now. So I get 2 or 3 comments a day, but it's not like when I go on Rich Cooper's show, let's say like, new clip and I'm in it and there's like 300 comments in an hour. I'm like, oh no, here we go.
Yeah.
But you don't get a lot of love a lot of times. You normally attract your haters. It's people.
Yeah.
Same thing. Like
and that is one thing I wanted to talk to you about.
I
I definitely wanted to hear. I wanted to talk about your experience with the haters, because if we've experienced it, Emmett's experienced it. But luckily on Unfazed, I think we're small enough. We have a lot of people that love us, so we have a really, really great core audience, which I'm really grateful for. And once in a while you get some haters coming through, but fuck them, like you said, and like Rich always says, hate always comes from beneath you. So
yeah, no, I've got a lot more free time now that I'm not doing the corporate stuff. So
excellent. So because you told me you were looking to switch over to doing your coaching and YouTube full time, correct?
Yeah, I always wanted to do that, and then at some point, I kept getting into contracts. So I was doing the overemployed concept, where you're working multiple jobs at once. So I did that for a bit, which you can save a lot of money very quickly when you have 2 tech salaries at once. It's a bit of a bitch to manage, and you sacrifice other things. Your dating life suffers, your fitness might suffer, the creative pursuits, but it gave me a nice nest egg upon which I can start building to the next level. And then,
that's great, man.
And then I've only ever known corporate culture because I went through the U.S. system and I played it very well. I was always a good academic. I was always like top of my class in all my studies. In college, I did really well. Got a job with one of the big defense contractors right out the gate, progressed really quickly. So that's the only income structure that I knew in my life. And then it got to the point, but in the meantime, I kept saying I'd already launched the channel. I already had mapped out in my head how I wanted my life to look. And I was like, well, I need the income. And then not too long ago, I talked to one of the guys in the top 1% community. At the beginning of each year, I do an audit of the last year. So at various verticals of my life. So did the financial audit, and I realized, you know what? Like these last few months, I've made just a little bit more with the YouTube channel, the coaching, and the private group memberships than I have with the corporate contract. And
there you go.
I spend maybe a few hours a week on it, whereas I'm 40 hours a week and just always stressed out. And if my phone dings the notification, like, oh my God, am I going to miss a Slack notification? I don't want to get talked to. I don't want to get fired. I don't want my contract to end prematurely.
Exactly.
And then it got to the point where I'm like, oh, like I I don't have a lot of expenses. A big part of my channel is like you can get a lot more with less in anything when it comes to dating, when it comes to fitness. Guys be like, oh, I want to do a steroid cycle. It's like, you don't need a cycle. Like you just need to optimize your hormones and then just let your genetics express themselves the way they're meant to be, and you'll be very surprised with the results. You don't need a lot. So
Oh yeah.
years ago with my financial plan, I did that. Like realized that I really only need, if I live on my minimalist budget, I need less than 2,000 a month to live. I do like to go to fancy restaurants. I do like to travel. When I go to clubs, I get like a table. But with the cost of life style differences between the U.S. and Mexico, even living in a really nice neighborhood, I never need more than like $3,000 a month. So it got to the point where I was like, all right, well, do I really need to do the corporate thing anymore? Which I talked to one of the guys in Rich's groups for a while, because in a lot of these guys in these like male self-improvement spaces, and Rich is one of them. It's not to criticize him. He's like, hey, you need to be a millionaire by the time you're 30, and if you're not, definitely by the time you're 40. So I was like, oh shit, I'm 35. Like
Yeah.
I got to get working. Like
Yeah.
I got to make my first $1 million. And then
Yeah.
another guy, one of the generals in Rich's group, I don't think he's gone on publicly, but he's a close friend of mine. He's maybe 10 years older than me. He's like, bro, I make like maybe $150,000, $200,000 a year, keep my expenses low, but I just have a good lifestyle. He's like, I have a small marketing agency, have some good VAs that pretty much run my day to day, and I just have to oversee the business. And he's always doing fun stuff. He's living his best life. I'm like, you know what?
That's a great way to
Like,
be.
like if I'm a millionaire someday, that's great. But like, I already live a really good life. Why am I forcing myself to go this corporate like CEO type route again when I don't need to?
Yeah.
I mean, really, when you don't have a lot of expenses, you don't really have to work that hard. And then you realize, okay, spend some time on, maybe I'm not working hard enough, and we're hard on ourselves a lot. But it got to the point where I'm like, okay, I'm just going to focus all on my creative output and see what happens. A year later, I have just shy of 3,000 subscribers right now on YouTube, which is not a lot, but I'm making between $8,000 and $10,000 a month with the coaching, the memberships, the private consults, some of the meetups I get invited to go to. It's like, do I need to do the corporate thing anymore? Like, what happened? What would happen if I took all that corporate stressful energy and then applied that towards my channel? But then a big realization I came to is that for a lot of people, you kind of need that, because all of a sudden, I let them know, like, hey, the contract's going to end. It was mutual. Again, like, I'm not really a culture fit because I don't have a second mortgage. I don't have 3 cars. I don't have a slovenly spouse who's at home relying on my income. So with my coworkers, like, we just don't have a lot in common. For me, it's like, I get on the clock, I do my shit, I'm out of there. But like, well, you don't treat it like it's your family. You don't. It's not like you're paying me to execute these contract milestones, which I am. Like, what's the fucking problem, guys? And it's a point I've gotten to time and time in my career. Again, it's really tough when you're like, okay, you're over leveraged. You're like, I have the car payment and I have the condo payment and the taxes in California are crazy. And then I need this job. I need this. And I got to the point like, I don't need this. And it was kind of scary coming to that realization of like, okay, I'm never going to have a corporate job ever again. Like, what do I do now?
That's the dream, man.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I look at I felt guilty. These last 2 weekends, I was in Miami for a weekend having, it was a meetup, having fun with some friends, but I met up with some potential clients for some business stuff too. And then EDC, like half the time through EDC, I felt guilty. And then again, being in that altered state, I'm like, Jaren, just let it go.
Yeah.
Like let yourself loose in this environment, become a part of it.
Yeah.
And then coming out of it, the come downs are usually pretty rough chemically, but I felt really good this whole time. It was like an internal breakthrough. And then I checked the bank account, I'm like, oh no, I didn't work. Again, going back to the old corporate mindset, I'm going to get fired. It's going to fuck up my entire life. And then like, there's more money in it than there was me screwing off the last 2 weekends, which I need to watch my language to the point where like, I'm not screwing off. I'm doing stuff. There's things getting done on these trips. I'm meeting people and I'm putting myself out there, and that's creating new opportunities for me.
Yes. That's great, man. That's the goal ultimately. It's like Emmett and I, same deal. It's like eventually, it's like right now I have, I have a corporate job, but the real love and passion and everything goes into the channel. And the goal eventually is, full-time YouTube. And obviously it doesn't happen overnight, but it's
a grind.
It's, it's in the back of my mind for sure.
Yeah. The whole, I think the pull of the corporate 9-to-5 thing beyond just making money is obviously like the benefits, insurance,
the benefits
retirement and everything.
Great, yeah.
That's the big pull, I think. And that's obviously looking forward, and especially if you have a family, you're looking to provide for it and everything. But obviously you can get to a point where you can do that with your own stuff too, but you just have to get really far into it, really
time
deep.
And money.
And then that's I think the point where you you've reached that freedom, is when you can sustain
Yeah.
yourself and sustain yourself in that way, just by doing your own stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful because the first time in my life I have a 9-to-5 job where truthfully they need me more than I need them, just by a little bit, and it feels so good because I don't have to be sweating, I don't have to be freaking out because I know I can kind of fuck off and like, what are they gonna do? And that dynamic has been so like, I've just been kind of basking in. It's still a huge time consumer, but you know, I remind myself of that and how great that is.
Yeah,
so
that's the best.
That's kind of been keeping me going.
One thing I did want to ask you too, how is inflation affecting things down in Mexico? Do you feel it as much as we're feeling it up here, or not at all?
I'm starting to, because the conversion rate. So when I rented this apartment, it was 22,000 pesos. It was 22 to 1 at the time, so about $1,000 for a big 2-bedroom. It's a high rise. You can kind of see the view out there.
Looks nice.
In one of the nicest neighborhoods in the entire country. So when I say what I pay in rent, for people down here, like, oh my God, that is so expensive. But compared to California rent,
Oh yeah.
Try getting a
fourth,
2-bedroom apartment in like downtown San Diego.
Even
or
here,
something.
it's like,
and here, dude, it's ridiculous here. It's insane.
Everywhere in the U.S.
Yeah.
And this is for people with like tech salaries. Like, how are families of lesser means doing it? I've always wondered that. It's like, God, if I'm barely getting ahead, and I'm not a big spender. I'm not like a big baller. Like some of these guys you see in the manosphere. They're like, like just dropping money on hoes and cars and fast life. Like, no, I'm pretty chill. I don't spend a lot of money. I'm fairly frugal. If I don't need it, then I won't buy it. If I have to finance it, I can't afford it. So, but for here, I live in a very high rent district. So at the time it's still 22,000 pesos, but the time the exchange rate was 22 to 1. So like, okay, cool. It's about $1,000. And then it got down to like 21, 20, 19. I think last month I paid was 18.65 to 1. So then all of a sudden it's like $1,150 or $1,200 in rent. And then now it's 17 to 1, the peso to the dollar. I'm like, okay, well now I'm going to pay like $1,250 to $1,300 in rent. So
it's going to keep creeping.
That's the only way it affects it. But I used to fall in the mindset like, oh my God, things are going up. What am I going to do? And I remember I had a buddy years ago in San Diego. We were driving downtown one time and we looked up at some high rises and I was like, oh, wouldn't it be nice to live there? And I was just kind of talking out loud. I was like, oh God, man, with the way my career progression's going, it's going to take a little while. And my buddy just nonchalantly was like, dude, just make more money. It's like, oh yeah, duh. Like,
why didn't I think of that?
You can just make more money. But it sounds crazy to people. And it's like, oh, if it were that easy. But once you do some of the internal work, it's like, okay, well, yeah, I can look at creative ways to make more money. And since ditching the corporate gig, and the channel sent me out a lot for this too. Like we'll get more on this topic, but before our bio break is what we called it.
Yes, our bio break. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. You work on like the Zoom calls and stuff. Yeah, like, oh, I got to take a bio.
I know
break,
exactly what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, before our bio break, I had to take a piss. We were getting on the topic of haters, and I'll get guys in the comments like haters like, "Hey man, I'm gonna find out who your employer is and get you fired, and you'll never work again." I'm like, dumb fuck.
Like, who gives
my
a shit,
channel
man?
has opened more opportunities for me. So I got brought on board in a biz dev role to lead like an affiliate program using like YouTube stuff, podcast stuff for a marketing startup out of Miami. And the founding members, they're C-levels for very, very big recognizable tech companies. So I will never reveal their identity publicly until they make that jump like I did. But they're like, hey man, like we kind of want to do what you're doing. And you know, can you just get new business in the door? But we want it to be very specific types of people. It's like, well, you know, let's do like an affiliate type thing where I can bring in guys under me, like guys in my private community. I get a lot of young guys like 18, 19, 20 years old. Like, how do I make money? Okay. Yeah. You get guys. I've heard critiques like, you know, like Hustlers University, like, oh, it's $50 a month. They'll maybe make like $200 a month. I'm like, well, no, I can pay these guys real wages if we're a paid focus on paid marketing company. And I've done those types of gigs before. You build a really good funnel, you get your ad spend down, and then you tell the client, hey, pay me, you know, if your ad spends 10,000 a month, give me 20%. That's 2,000 a month. You do that 5 times and you've got an income now. So, but I don't want to do that. I don't want to execute the contracts. So I was brought on board in an advisory position and actually talked to the CEO today. He's like, hey, let's just put you all in biz dev. Just get yourself out there, you know, build an offer for like an affiliate program to where you can get downline is an MLM term. I know I'm going to get in trouble for that, but like your followers can essentially be a downline where like, hey guys, if you bring new business in the door, I'll give you a percentage of the contract, and let's build like a tiered commission infrastructure for these young guys who are like, hey, the West is crumbling, or I want to get out of the US, or I'm 19 years old. It's $4,000 for a 2-bedroom apartment in California. Even if I got roommates, I still don't have the income to do this. Like, what do I
Yeah.
do with my life?
Mm-hmm.
Like, Jaren, I'd love to go abroad like you, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't know Spanish. I don't have a passport. How do I do this? So it's like, for me, it's like, okay. And I'm sure you guys are seeing this too. Like, for every hater you have like 5 raving fans who are like, hey man, like, how do I get my life in order? You're just like, oh
Mm-hmm.
shit. Like, I always thought about it for me, but now
Yeah.
other people are looking for those answers. Like, okay, well, it'd be really nice if I could 100% do my channel, but I need some income in the meantime. So I'll work for this firm in the biz dev role,
Mm-hmm.
and then give other guys opportunities to come on board and through whether it's a referral program. So like if you give me a lead and then I convert it through my team, well, you get like a $500 referral fee. If you're a young kid and you're socially connected,
Mm-hmm.
which a lot of young guys are, do that a couple times a month, and then we'll give you a percentage of the monthly renewal on the contract, and there you go. You can have a full-time income in a couple months if you want to. So
There you go.
so we're working on that offer. For anyone who's listening, hit me up. Stuff's in the description. I'll let you know more about that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a good way to make money, and that the CEO is totally on board. He's like, yes, this is exactly what we want to do, because people, if you're a CEO, again, like a lot of these corporate companies are woke, but a lot of these people, notice I corrected myself and tried to use proper English. Like, woke is the incorrect term. so they've been awakened, or isn't that funny? So even like these C-level guys, like some of these FANG type companies, like when you talk to them one-on-one over some beers and Brickle, like you can, like, they know that they're not idiots.
Yeah.
You don't become a CEO for one of these companies because you're a dipshit. So these guys know, and they understand that's the way the world's going. It's more of a gig-based economy now. The U.S., we haven't been a manufacturing economy forever. For the longest time, we were a service-based economy, but a lot of that's going to be automated with some of these new emerging technologies. So now I think we're turning into like a gig/information-based economy, and people who can see that are people that align what it is they want to do in life with that. I'm like, okay, well, I'm getting to the point with my channel, like, now that I'm doing it full time, I have to sell stuff. And I hate to say it, guys, I'll get people on one hand, they're like, well, you need to do more content, you're not as consistent. I'm like, all right, guys, hey, join the top 10%. It's $9.97 lifetime membership. We do all this cool stuff behind the paywall. Oh man, now you're a shill. Now you're grifting. Now you're selling shit. Like, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to go back to my corporate lifestyle and just not do content for another 4 months? Like,
and what's so ironic about that too is like, totally get what you're saying, but like, think about big TV shows, right? They have to have ad breaks, commercial breaks. The money has to come from somewhere. It's like,
those productions aren't free.
Yeah, what are those guys
together?
What are those guys thinking? Like what where do you draw the line,
I don't know. Do you guys want to touch on that topic of haters? Which
I would love to
really
talk about haters.
Between haters and fans, yeah.
Yeah. So in my experience, like I said, smaller channel, of course. Emmett has a lot of experience with this too, because he and his brother have a channel that's actually pretty large. You come across haters, at least in our realm. I'm very fortunate because once in a while I get someone that hops in like, hey, unwatchable, bald. I'm like, okay, fuck you. But then you get, but then after that, it's like you get one person that kind of comes through like that, and they make a judgment on you based on seeing you for like 2 seconds, But then you have other people who really stick around and they're so supportive. Like you said, for every like one shithead, there's like 5, legitimate like subscribers that are great and like super supportive, and like they really like the content and they stick with you. And a lot of these people, a couple of them have evolved into being patrons, a couple have turned into friends on Discord that we talk to like almost every day. And it's like, it's really amazing. So it's like once in a while, you get some dipshit coming through, and that's going to happen anywhere. That could happen in a corporate environment, like you with your Karens, you know?
And you're stuck with them.
And you're stuck with them in the real world. But here it's like, no matter what you do, no matter how golden your content is, doesn't matter who you are. You could be the best of the best. You could be Joe Rogan. You could be, fill in the blank. Anybody who's crushing it, you're going to get haters. And that's just a reality. And I'd love to hear, Emmett's thoughts on haters.
Yeah, I think you nailed it with that ratio. I mean, there's most people like this stuff, but it's just like human nature to zoom in on the negative thing.
For sure.
And then it feels like there's a lot of it. But yeah, for like 20 comments that are like, love you guys, this is awesome. Then there's like the one guy who's like, this is lame.
And then you just
like,
remember the negative one.
That
one,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So if you can just like pull away from that. And it takes all it took for me was just time.
Yeah.
And once they started happening, it is kind of jarring when you first see them. It's like, oh fuck, But once you are able to pull back and realize like this is just one guy out of like a lot, it doesn't really matter.
And I don't know what happened, but there was a shift definitely this last year. Maybe it's just because I became more proud of the content that we were making. Like I felt like we kind of went up a notch as far as like, you know, our output and like the quality of it. But I just don't care as much. And once in a while you'll get a hateful comment and I'm like, I've
gotten that point,
I don't give a fuck. Like I'm like, I'll think about this guy and I'm like, well, this guy must be pretty pathetic and have an awful lot of time on his hands and like probably lives a really shitty life. And he's just, you know, trying to vent, you know, and you know, put some, you know, spew some venom out there. And it's kind of like, I really don't care. It doesn't get under my skin like it used to. Yeah. And we have so many, you know, people who leave kind, supportive comments on a regular basis where I'm like, well, those are the people I'm making the videos for.
Yeah.
And once in a while, if a hater wants to drift through town, so to speak, on our channel and, you know, spew some hatred, they're doing that to every channel they come across. They're professional trolls.
Yeah,
they're professional trolls. And I don't care like I used to. I just really don't.
Yeah, and so I think at first, because there is a bit of a learning curve or a growing curve for the whole YouTube or the content game. So the first time I got invited on Rich Cooper's channel, and it was on his main channel, the Entrepreneurs in Cars, which I think has like 600,000 subscribers or something. So pretty big audience.
Yeah, it's huge.
And I went on there, and the first show was how to pack your calendar with dates. And I had never been in front of that large audience before, and I thought that people were going to be genuinely interested in the topic. And Rich invited me on because in his private forums, I posted all the time exactly how I structure my dating life. And I'm an inbound digital marketer by trade, so it's not like I sat down and graphed it all out and did all the workflows and the decision logic. It's just my brain naturally works that way. That's what I do for a living. To where after years on the dating apps, you kind of set it up that way. You set it up like a funnel, and then like, all right, well, you need lead flow on the top of the funnel. And there's different stages of how to convert them, and you need pre-qualifying questions, and there's certain points in the conversation. Then I applied like some decision tree logic, like when she says this, you can either take it this way or this way, but you want to bring it back to a certain point and keep converting them through the sales process. And that's just the way I work, because that's what I've worked in for like almost 20 years now. So I went on the show and I'm just breaking down exactly what I did in his communities, which in his private groups, it's like, this is it. This is the shit. Like there's a framework for this that you can put into your life. And then once you have it down, you know, it's different. It looks a little different for every person. But once you have this flexible framework down and you install it into your internal operating system, then it's not really hard to get dates whenever you want. It's not hard to get laid whenever you want. Even guys that live in, if you're in like a town of 12 people and half of them are your family, then yeah, you're going to have a hard time. But if you're in a major US city, like, you know, it's going to be pretty easy for you.
Yeah, for sure.
So I went out there and just shared what I had been sharing with Rich's groups for years, and I thought people were going to appreciate it. No. Oh my God, they fucking hated me. They told me, this guy's a douche. He's a narcissist. He's full of shit. He's lying. He's making this up. And I still get those every now and then. Like, Jaren doesn't really live in Mexico. I was like, it's right. Mexico City's right there out my window. You can see it.
People are insane.
Yeah.
Like you can, or like, I haven't gotten any of this, but if I was thinking I might do a video about the music festival. But you'll get people like, oh, Jaren didn't go to EDC Mexico. It's like, all you hear is Spanish in the background. Like once the music dies, you just hear it all around you, and it looks like Mexico, and it smells like it, and it tastes like it, and it looks like it. So I don't know what else to tell you guys. And on this first dating topic, I think the first few times I went on Rich's show is more around the dating topics. Man, people fucking blew me up in the comments. Like he doesn't get it, or guys that Rich and I talked about this 2 days ago. Guys will tell Rich like, "Oh, Rich Cooper can't get laid." And I, in his defense, I'm like, "You're a successful Canadian entrepreneur. You had your successful exit before YouTube was even a thing.
Yeah.
And you're in good shape for your age. You've taken care of yourself. You're fucking jacked. You drive supercars. You have across all of his channels. He has like 2 million followers or subscribers.
He's got like massive social proof, and like the guy's like killing it.
What makes you think he can't get laid? Like that just blows my mind, because I teach guys like, okay, when it comes to Instagram and connecting it to your dating apps, for it's a stage 2 of the funnel, get them to your Instagram if you need some lead nurture there. Once you hit 2,000 or 2,500 followers, then all of a sudden there's like this social proof effect to where your Instagram converts for you. Like girls, they might be on the fence about your Tinder, and they see your Instagram like, oh, this guy's cool as fuck, and he has like 6,000 people are interested in enough in what he's up to on his day-to-day life to where they follow him. It does a lot of work for you. Or
Absolutely.
if you posted story. Like anytime I post a story, I'll get 2 to 3 chicks reaching out like, hey, what are you up to tonight? Or, oh, I'm in the neighborhood, let's hang out. Or, hey, do you want to do breakfast tomorrow? Every single story I post. So I'm small.
Yeah.
I'm peanuts compared to Rich Cooper. So what makes you think these guys aren't getting laid?
Yeah.
And again, for me, at first it kind of bothered me because I'm like, do these people not fucking understand reality?
Yeah.
Do they not get it? Well, no,
Yeah.
they don't experience the world I do.
Mm-hmm.
They're like the guys I mentioned when I still have the screwed up knee, but I'm kind of babying it. But when the knee was first screwed up and, the pain was so excruciating and the inflammation was such that it like literally squeezed the joint to where I couldn't like move the damn thing.
Yeah.
Smoking weed in my mom's basement and just living my world via YouTube. Yeah, it would have been unbelievable to those types of guys, which I totally get. So at first it bugged me at first, not that I took it personally, like personally I don't care, but it bugged me. I'm like, how do I break through to these people? Like, is it a failure on my part that I'm not being clear enough to allow them to see how easy these things are to solve in your life? And then it got to the point where I'm like, okay, well, now it's getting kind of ridiculous. Like people, when I'm literally doing a video and I'm walking around downtown Mexico City, and they're like, "Oh, you don't live in Mexico." Like, okay, like I don't know, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah,
I think that sort of denial is a form of jealousy, which is a form of flattery.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah,
100%.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think a lot of them, in my experience, especially when they talk about like the really big guys and the guys who are like clearly crushing it, just like in your experience. It's 100% jealousy.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of those guys, they don't have a fraction of what someone like you has or someone like Rich has. And they're jealous that they're never going to, because they don't have the balls to even put their face on the internet. They don't have the balls to, do half of the things that you guys do. And I think, that applies to people that, shit on different actors or, different public figures. I do think Emmett hit the nail on the head. A good portion of that is jealousy.
Yeah.
I think so too, and I think going back to the idea, which I do prescribe to this own notion that I put out there earlier, whereas I compare myself to myself, and sometimes we're our own harshest critics. So it's hard to accept sometimes that people see my lifestyle and they're jealous of it. When for me, I've made a ton of progress in my life, but I still compare myself where I'm at now to where I want to be, and I'm like, I feel guilty, like I'm not working hard enough, I'm not doing enough. I have to make a conscious effort to set back and like, you know what? Go on a date on a Wednesday night. Go to a music festival for a weekend. Go to Miami.
Yeah, have some fun.
And have some meet your boys and have some fun and throw maybe drink a little too much. I'm really not a big drinker, but
no, we've all been
with that group, we'll throw back some whiskeys and we'll shoot the shit and talk about life and the world at large and you get sometimes you feel a bit of guilt for enjoying yourself, and then you're like, all right, I'm back on the content, and then you get these people like your life is unbelievable, and for me, like it's been so long since I've been in that state of mind that you forget it kind of exists, and then once you understand that, like I do have empathy for these people that just have nothing going on in life, and they would love to live a lifestyle like I would, which. When I do my meditative sessions, I remind myself that like Jaren, you're doing a pretty good fucking job. Like there's a lot of guys that would love to be in the position you're at right now. So like, don't be so goddamn hard on yourself. Take a breath. You're doing good. You're on the right path. Don't compare yourself to others. Compare yourself to yourself.
Sorry to interrupt. How often do you do your meditative sessions? Is that like a daily thing for you, or?
When I wake up, so I'm a lucid dreamer. I've naturally been since I was a kid. So a lot of people say like, oh, you don't get in the deep dream state until you're like, in the latter third of your REM cycle. Now, like immediately as I fall asleep, like I'll be in like a very lucid, deep dream state, and then I wake up, like 20 minutes later for a power nap. I'm like, okay, well, no, I'm able to induce those states in myself, and naturally I was since I was a kid. So it's that moment when. Like you wake up naturally, but usually I wake up a bit earlier than the alarm. So I wake up naturally. I don't want to go through a full another sleep cycle. So I'll just kind of lay there. I'll close my eyes. You're still within that dream and waking state. And for me, that's when the best kind of revelations come through. But it's more guided for me at this point. It's like I do I call it an all systems check. So just a mental checklist. Like after the music festivals, like, oh, like I have a blister on my right pinky toe and my left ring toe. Like someone must have stepped at me at some point. The nail's broken and there's blood all over my sock. And then my knee, like I didn't fall over the entire weekend, but at some point I must have scraped my knee. And then, is this okay? Is it going to affect the gym? What does the gym look like? What are we going to do in the gym? Like, what are you going to eat today? And then just go through, but it's more kind of emotional. It used to be a longer process for me. Now it's automatic. I don't go through and ask myself all those questions. Like your brain just kind of offers up what needs to be addressed for the day that's outside of the baseline or the mainstream day-to-day operating procedure for yourself. And then if there's issues that come up, like again over the weekend when I was in the alternate mind state, let's say, things that came up like, yeah, you know, that like there might still be some things I need to work on. Like one I'm working on now is like not feeling guilty for living my own life on my own terms.
That's
and
a
just
big
being
one.
100% of it.
Yeah.
I thought I had that taken care of, but in the state I was over the weekend, those things started coming back. I'd be really enjoying myself, letting myself go. It's like, you should be working right now, or you should be. I'm like, well, I am working because I'm going to get something out of it. It's gonna be an experience that I can share with people, and where I can draw lessons from it. And you know, I've mentioned on this cast, I mentioned on Rich's show the other day, I'll probably mention on Saturday, and maybe I'll probably do a video on it at some point too. So like, I got something out of it. I got ROI out of the experience, but in the moment, it's like I couldn't let myself enjoy myself. So that's something that comes through that meditative process, like actively, hey, how are we working on this? How are we going to reframe this? How are we going to make this no longer an issue in your life? And then once you get it down, I mentally do a thing where you kind of hold something cognitively. You're working through it. You're watching it play out in your day-to-day life. You're like, okay, for example, what's that effect? Like, I want to buy a yellow Ford Fusion, and all of a sudden you see those fucking cars everywhere.
Like manifesting.
Exactly, yeah. So I'll do that as I'm working through something. I kind of hold it in my head, but once I get it, I'm like, all right, I feel pretty comfortable with this. Then I do like a mental process where I commit it to memory or intuition, which I remember reading years ago. There's a study saying that you actually have like neurons, like neurological type cells in your physical gut. Whether it's true or not doesn't matter. How I mentally map my world, it's true, and I just commit things that I have solved to my gut. And it just no longer occupies my thought space anymore. It just becomes a part of my internal operating system. So for me, those morning meditative sessions, I call it like an all systems check. They seem to work pretty well. Again, even especially after the music festival, like felt great, but I know I'm dehydrated. I know I'm calorically deprived. So like yesterday, it's like, well, I'm going to order a pizza today. I normally don't eat junk food, but like I'm 7,000 calories shy. How do I know that? Because years ago, when I lost a bunch of weight, I mapped everything out and I knew what all my food looked like. Well, I committed that to memory years ago. I just know where I need to be calorically. So in the real time, like yesterday, as I'm planning out my day, all right, well, I'm gonna have a pizza. I'm gonna do this, and here's what my schedule looks like. And again, it sounds like a lot, and it's hard for me to articulate sometimes because it's something I put in place years ago, and it's just like part. I use the term internal operating system, so it's part of my internal operating system.
I was gonna say, it sounds like you just get into a rhythm, and once you're there, it's
exactly
natural. Yeah, cool.
And I feel like, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Good.
I feel like on the overarching, just theme, like we were talking about on, people getting out of their ruts, I think just literally right there, you dropped 3 golden nuggets of information for people just to kind of think about. Your meditation time, you're checking up on yourself time. Super critical. I think that's really good. Taking time, at the beginning of your day to kind of center, Second thing, having a hobby, your guitar, something you're passionate about, something you love. Everybody needs a hobby. I think that, you can get a lot of joy from that.
Something where you lose yourself in the activity.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
And then third, having fun, realizing, hey, it's okay to go out and go to a music festival, go drink with my buddies, go fill in the blank, go on that date on a work night, whatever it is, and not feel guilty about it, not feel like, oh, I shouldn't be doing this, or second guess your choice. Like, go have fun. Like, life's short, So literally those 3 things I think people could learn from, just because it's like, you're being yourself, you're living, and you're also, taking time to take care of yourself as well.
Yeah, I'd say that's an accurate assessment there. And then I remember at some point sometimes I'll get a little tangential. I'm gonna have to bring it back.
Okay.
But,
that's kind of what we're all based on is tangents, man. So you're golden. Yeah.
They make for good conversations though, but we've been sticking to some recurring themes, which is good.
No, I mean, and that's the thing. They're loose.
Them.
They're loose little themes. I love the tangents because just like your typical conversation, which this is, it's like it's fun to go down those different rabbit holes because it's like talking about Mexico is super fascinating. I did have another question for you about Mexico.
Yeah.
So you said where you're at, bigger city, nice area, nice neighborhood. From our perspective, I'm sure you see that as well, and you get a lot of questions about it. Safety, cartel violence, things like that. Like I hear so many times and see so many things on the news where it's like, oh, you go down to Rocky Point, you know, it's like nothing but crime. It's a super dangerous stretch. And I guess, you know, from what I've heard, that's more so true around like, you know, border towns and places like that. But what's your experience? Have you ever had any run-ins, you know, with like the cartel? Have you ever had any, you know, situations where you've had to really watch your back, or have you been robbed or anything like that? Or are you super safe where you're at? Like what's the crime situation there?
Yeah, that's an interesting one to address. So with the cartel thing, I don't talk too publicly about those things because I'm not in that culture. I think a lot of people ask about that. They'll see the news, but the news is sensationalist anyway. So I saw a meme earlier today. It's like Mexico's most dangerous cities, and the Mexico's most dangerous cities, they're comparable per capita with violent crime as to like a Detroit or New Orleans. So Washington D.C. is a very dangerous city. It's about the same as Mexico's most dangerous cities. So most people don't understand that. They're like all these cartels, all these beheadings, all these shootings, but pretty much the rule of thumb is when it comes to that stuff, don't get involved in it. Like obviously, you know, I mentioned you know, took mind altering substances at the festival. I had to get them somewhere. Well, likely it was manufactured, produced, transported, distributed by those networks, let's just say. But like, I'm not gonna like put my nose in their business. Like, hey man, you know, where'd this come from? Where's the lab? I got just do your transaction.
Where's the lab, man?
Yeah, exactly. Especially as a gringo, like Mexico, not so much because we have a lot of foreigners here. But when you go to like off the beaten path third world countries, they see a face like mine and they think you're DEA. Like especially when you're in like decent shape, they're like, "What are you doing here?" Like, no, not involved in that. But like they won't believe you. Yeah, for sure. No matter how much you try to convince them. I've got that profile.
I get you.
But when it comes to like the cartel stuff, what people don't realize is they're multinational corporations. Like they're routinely on the Forbes top like 100, top 10 list, top whatever the hell list it is. It's not like Narcos where you see it's a bunch of lawless thugs run around and shooting each other and beheading each other. Now, when governments get involved and they remove the heads of the cartels, then everything breaks down and there's a power vacuum, and that creates a shit ton of violence. But most of the time, it's usually just it's kind of like the gang thing too. Like if you're not a Crip or a Blood, like you don't really have to worry about gang on gang violence if you're not in a gang. And a lot of times I go to like Televisa events here because I'm kind of in the creative community, and people are like, well, don't you realize that's like a major cartel company? I was like, don't you realize the cartel, the government, and all the corporations here are exactly the same? And don't you realize the US does the same shit? I mean, do you think there's not Mexican cartels in the U.S. and they're not invited in with an open border policy, which we already touched on? Like you're out of your fucking mind, or you don't live in reality if you don't know these things. So you do meet these people, but a lot of the ones I meet, they're suit and tie type guys. And the university I went to down here, going on like 17, 18 years ago now, it was a very, very high class university. It was a private university founded by a very prominent family in the city I was living in. And everyone knew that if you see that last name on a building, that they are cartel related. And a lot of my classmates were kids of people that did that. They were also the kids of politicians. That I hung out with the governor's son back in the day because they were my classmates. We were 18, 19, 20 years old, and you just hang out with people in your periphery. And this was pre-social media, smartphones, and all that stuff. So there'd be times we'd be out and a buddy would pitch me. He's like, hey, man, you said your grandpa has some money. 10K, we're looking to finance a shipment to this rural area in the South. And, we can, and they like gave me a pitch deck, like a presentation. So at the higher levels, it's just the same way your major U.S. banks or investment firms would run. And now, unfortunately, which I'm not a huge fan on regulating morality, I think it causes a lot of problems. I think that I'm more kind of libertarian politically. So in terms of drugs, if I want to fuck up my system, I have the right to do that. Or if I want to do whatever it is, that's no one else's business but mine.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So
I agree with
having like this like war on drugs, and then all of a sudden, oh, there's an actual war going on. Well, yeah, you put it in the name. What do you think's going to happen? You announce these ridiculous policies, like people in depressed positions are going to take mind-altering substances, and some of them might be habit-forming rather than recreational. And even if it is, it doesn't really matter. It's more of a mental health or a social or health in general problem than it is a criminal problem. And so you create these systems to where, well, you have to have violent cartels. Like there's no other way it's going to work. You set the table to where violent cartels exist, and not only did you set the table so they have to exist, you incentivize them to where they flourish. Like the stricter you get with drugs, the more competition there's going to be on this side of the border, and you're going to have those issues. And then in terms of like the murders and stuff, again, going back to the class system, well, if you watch Narcos, they call them sicarios down here, which is like your assassins. Well, you can look at what they look like. And then the people that get arrested and extradited and tried publicly, what do those guys look like? There's differences in, let's say racial, socioeconomic, education levels. But like the cartel thing, like it's integrated with society. And guess what? If the U.S. were to get itself right culturally and fix its mental health issues, cartels wouldn't exist. Like they'd be done. Or if we just blanket legalized everything, took that tax revenue and then put it towards mental health and got these fucking people off the street and, you know, got them on a straight and narrow path, cartels don't exist anymore. But until you take care of the supply or the demand side, you're always going to have the supply side. There's just so much incentive there.
And they'll always find something. Because like if they did what you said, it would be a libertarian utopia and we'd all be very happy. But if they, you know, let's say it was, you know, if it wasn't drugs, then it would be arms. If it's not arms, then it would be prostitution. Like they're always going to find something. Like it's, you know, it's just how they operate.
Well, people always laugh in the comments. So it's funny. A lot of drugs actually down here come from the U.S. From the legal marijuana industry. Mushrooms are like kind of technically legal in a lot of those states. So the class of substances I use, they're all from the U.S. Like anything I buy here, they're branded with California companies I know.
That's interesting because it's like the most potent stuff, huh?
Yeah, people always get crazy in the comments like, oh, yeah, whatever, cartels bringing drugs from the U.S. to Mexico. I'm like, well, no, that is what's happening. And the guns from the U.S. to Mexico are a big thing, too. That's a big revenue generator. And then a lot of it lately is, what's the term? It's not PC, white slavery. So human trafficking is a very big one. Yeah. A lot of people don't realize that there's more slaves in the U.S. now than there ever was before the Civil War at any given time put together. Jeez. And again, I'll say that. And if I say that on shows like Riches, people blow me up in the comments, and then people look into it and like, kind of like the Trump's thing. He's like, well, you know, Mexico's sending mostly rapists and criminals, and like 90% of the rapists and criminals, and they come back like, well, only 86% of them are criminals. Like, okay, but that's still a big number.
You get his point,
Yeah, like it's still something that's troubling.
Yeah, just because he said it, that's what they immediately want to jump on him and shit on it.
And it's terrifying how silent everyone is about these things.
It's disturbing.
They're horrific things.
Yeah, people don't care about like the pedophilia topic or like human trafficking. Anywhere you go in any major U.S. city, like and even in male bathrooms, like I'll sit down in the stall and then right in front of me, it's like, if you are a human trafficking victim, call this number. Jesus, I see that all over, at least in West Coast cities now.
Damn.
Like you used to not see that in the U.S. Like I'm sure it's always happened. It's always happened throughout any point of human history in any population, although people want to think otherwise. But to the point where it's such a big thing to where like you're seeing posted in bathrooms like, "Hey, call us,"
insane.
or there's a girl the other night at the festival. She had like two kind of rough looking guys behind her, and she was like clearly out of her mind. And at one point, the girl went to the festival with, we kind of switched places, and I went next to her, and I was just like, "Hey, like, are you okay?" And they don't have a culture of that down here, but the girl I was with, she's like, "Oh, that's really cool you did that." I'm like, where I'm from, like when you see, again, I'm a classical American. I'm not a modern woke shitbag American. Of course. But when I was growing up, if you see someone who's clearly out of their mind, you're like, "Hey, like, are you all right? Is everything okay? If you need help, just, wink twice or, do something. Just let me know. I can get you out of a bad situation if you're in one."
Yeah.
But I think the culture, the culture allows for a lot of this stuff to persist. And then going back to your original question with the violence thing, the only petty violence I've had, I was held up once at knife point. That was me not being situationally aware. I lived in a nicer neighborhood in Guadalajara. Okay. But the way this worked is I'd walk. Usually, you like to alter your schedule a bit. This was when things were really bad. Things aren't bad here like they were before. There are regional areas of whatever, but usually it's the government takes out some high-ranking member and then they retaliate. It happened actually a few months ago in Tijuana, where on Friday night they call them narcomantas. So like they hang up these like giant, it's like blankets they spray paint. They hang them up on bridges, and then the news picks it up obviously. So in Tijuana it was quite amazing. On Friday night they're like, "Hey, there's a curfew at 8 p.m. They took out so and so. We're gonna hit back. Just know that Friday, Saturday, and Sunday after 8 p.m., just stay home. Don't go out." And the city was up in flames, and no one got murdered, and they made their point heard, and it was like more about kind of political. It was almost political violence. Like,
was it essentially like kind of like a riot, like one of those you see where they're like busting up storefronts and shit? And
No, that doesn't happen down here. So when people are worried about the cartel stuff, I'm like, did you not see Los Angeles burn to the fucking ground 2 summers ago? And then Amazon was clapping themselves, and Starbucks was patting themselves on the back. Like, that's not terrorism. That is terrorism, by the way. But here it's very again, when the cartels are all kind of put together as a solid structure. The Tijuana thing blew my mind when it happened. Was, hey, after 8 p.m. or whatever time they announced, stay home, and they hit back at the government. And then after the weekend, it was just business as usual. You know, a couple buses got blown up, but they took all the people off the buses. Usually what they do is they'll set up, they'll like, I'm assuming they tried to like break the head guy out or something. Again, I'm not like really into this kind of stuff. It was so terrifying when they had the drug war going on. I'm like, I just don't want to go down that road. But but as a guy who like looks at the media, it was quite incredible. It's like they announced to the public, stay home. Everyone stayed home. Some buses got blown up. Usually they'll like grenade out the buses, and they'll be on fire. So that causes a police response, and they block off like major roadways or systems. So like the transportation networks get screwed up, and then it's more like a military type operative. But it's very controlled. It's very calculated. It's very precise.
The last thing I heard about
that's typically how it works.
I'm sorry. The last thing I heard about that was similar to that was like a Sicario type situation. I don't know if you heard about it, where they broke out some cartel boss from one of the prisons, and it was like just a few miles south of Texas, and it was like one of those like, you know, very well executed type situations, like something you'd see from like Sicario or Breaking Bad or something, where they got him out, and they got out like these elite dudes with him, and they were like in and out, and it was like this crazy like raid on the prison. Did you hear about that?
No, but it happens enough around the country to where, you know, it's kind of like the mass shooting thing in the U.S. Unfortunately, where it just happens so much. Like, did you hear about this one? Like, no, you hear about the big ones.
Okay.
But whenever people ask me about to address the larger question, so I did get held up once at knife point, but during that time, that day, there was a major operation. So I watched this all play out to where I would walk the same route, like to and from school or work or whatever the hell I was doing at the time, and I noticed that I'd walk on the right side of the street down the main primary street that got me into town from I lived in a private neighborhood at the time, and there'd be guys, and like you see the same people out and about. Like when I go out and about down here, you see the same people, and you say hello and you exchange your little words. They're much more. There's much more of a social fabric in these Latin cultures. Like, your neighbors talk to you. Yeah. Like if I see my neighbor, they're going to stop and we're going to talk for like 5 to 10 minutes. Nice. And it's really nice. As a gringo, I wasn't used to that. It took me a while to get used to it. I found it annoying at first, but now when I go to the U.S. and someone I haven't seen in a year, they're like, "Oh, hey, what's up, man?" They're like, "Hey, what's up?" That's it.
Right.
Okay. Like, cool. Fucking weirdo. So I'd be walking down the street, and these guys, you know, people that just kind of blended in as like your background characters. I just didn't even really notice them there. And then one day, like the guy kind of like came at me. He's like, "Oh, hey, sorry, man. Hey, sorry." And like, "Oh, whatever." And I know that I remember the day before I got robbed. Didn't realize it at the time, but when I did get robbed, it clicked. I'm like, "Oh, God damn it!" Like they were desensitizing me to seeing them present in the neighborhood, to like getting close. And the day before, I was walking down the street. I think I was on the way to the gym or something, and he came up, like put his arm around me, and I thought it was a buddy. I'm like, "Oh, hey, what's up? Oh, hey, how's it going?" You know, because it's a guy I've seen in the neighborhood the last few days. And then I'm walking all of a sudden, and he's like standing by a bus stop. I noticed something off. Like he was like kind of leaning on the bus stop, and another guy was here, and then there's 3 of them, and they got me. And I'm just like, "Oh, man. Fuck!" Like got me in a corner, had the knife at my side, and at that point, I was carrying a book bag. So like in more dangerous countries, don't carry a laptop bag. You're making yourself a target. I know you can't say this in the U.S. Like, well, you know, if something happened to you, it's because you're asking for it. It's like, but really, it is. Like girls too. Latin America is very unsafe for women. So like a lot of white women, they'll come down here like, "Hey, going out by yourself in like a skirt like that and getting drunk as fuck in this neighborhood, you are asking to be human trafficked." Oh, you can't say that. I'm like,
right.
If you want to get sold into sexual slavery, go ahead and do that. If you don't want to do that, go ahead and not do that. That's all I'm going to say on the topic. So 100%, for me, like I was in the wrong. I wasn't situationally aware. You know, I had the laptop bag. Thank God I didn't have my laptop. But the guy, like, all he got was my cell phone. And this was years ago. This was a long time ago. It's like the iPhone 3 or 4 or something like that, which I had an insurance policy. Literally that same day, I got a brand new phone, which I was probably due for an upgrade anyways. But I noticed when the guy had that knife to me, he had if you've ever known anyone on dialysis, my dad's on dialysis, so like you get like the little marks on your arms or whatever. So I was looking at this guy's arm. I was like, well, fuck. And this thought goes through your head. It's like the same way when the police stop you. You're like, well, I could take this guy. You're like, no, just don't do it. Don't go down that avenue. You're gonna escalate the situation. Just get it over with as soon as possible. So I did. Went back to the house. I was really stressed out, so I decided not to go to work or school, whatever the hell I was doing that day. Went up to the roof instead with my roommate. We got some. They call them Kawamas, like big ass beers, and played some dominoes with the neighbors. And then that day, we noticed that there all of a sudden there were reports because we had the police come and took a report, and they were getting called all over. And the police, they're like, hey, like we're getting reports of this like all over town. Like something's going down. You should probably stay home. I'm like, all right, cool. And then we watched from the roof is like there's like a military style operation. So they took out the head. He was called Al Barbi of like whatever cartel was in charge of that territory at the time. And then all of a sudden it creates a power vacuum. So they obviously retaliate against the government. But one good thing I'd say in like cartels defenses is if there's a stronghold in your local city or market, petty crime is reduced because they are a smooth operating business and you do not fuck with their business. And if you're going in neighborhoods where these people live and you're like holding people up at knife point, or if you're doing like petty street shit, well, the people at the high level that they don't want that shit. You're on their territory. You don't do that shit. It gets in the way of business, or it creates a police response, or they think you're affiliated with that. So that it's usually a smooth running operation. But that day in hindsight, looking back, I'm like, okay, well, that's what happens. They took out the head, and then all of a sudden just the whole city erupts in violence. People that probably aren't even related to that, they're opportunists. Like, hey, there's no hardcore power structure over criminality anymore. So fucking let's have a heyday. And it's like literally like the movie The Purge, where I literally saw the city like I lived in a nice neighborhood. Like I had a view like I do here now. You know, I looked down on the city and I just saw the city erupt in chaos in front of me. I'm like, thank God I got my phone stolen at knife point and decided not to go to work today, because otherwise I'd be down here in the middle of all this bullshit. And I don't want that to happen.
I'm going to take a quick bio break, but continue. I'll be right back.
Ahead, man. Yeah. No, that's super fascinating. And it's almost like it, not to say it was good that you got robbed, of course, but it was good that you didn't go in that day. Like
I reframed negatives in my head. So yeah. Like, oh, thank God. Oh, that girl cheated on me. Thank God it happened, because the next girl is really cool.
Yes. It's like, did you ever hear the Seth MacFarlane Family Guy story about 9/11?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And it's like he was
hungover as fuck and missed the flight. Yep.
Yeah, and it's like had he not been hungover and missed that flight, he would have died on one of the planes that hit one of the World Trade Centers. And it's just like, holy shit. Like when you think of things that way, it's like I'm always big on that. My dad's always been really big on that. It's like, well, it's probably keeping you from something. It's like, you have to reframe things, and I think it's a healthy way to look at life,
Or to wrap up the whole like crime safety issue, because that's a common question I get from Mexico.
I'm sure.
But when you look at it, like the most dangerous cities are the border cities. They're comparable per capita, like murder rate, violent crime rate to the dangerous U.S. cities. But cities like the area I live in, it's a lot lower crime rate than anywhere in the U.S.
That's great.
And it's hard for people to imagine that, because they think Mexico, like the entire country, is exactly the same. No, it's a humongous country, and it's a very diverse country. A lot of people here in certain regions of the country, like they don't speak Spanish, like they're not even Hispanic. They're Amerindian. They're like they still follow different cultures. Or every region has a different climate, different elevation. Like if you live in the desert versus living on the beach, and you live in the north versus the south, you're completely different people. You speak different Spanish. You look different. You eat different food. Your houses look different. Like everything. Like it's a very diverse country.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes it gets a sweeping generalization that like, oh, it must all be this way. You're like, no, it's not. And the point I make to my friends in the U.S. is the same way people in the U.S. are concerned about cartel or drug stuff in Mexico, the Mexicans have the same concern. Like they're legitimately terrified to go to the U.S. a lot of times because of our homeless problem, our mental health problem, and our mass shooting problem.
That's interesting.
Those problems don't exist here. Like there's a lot of poverty, but they have strong social networks. So you don't see people living on the street. You'll see them living in really shitty conditions, but there's like 3 generations in the house, and they're kind of like holding each other together, where in the more individualistic societies like the U.S., like they don't have these social networks. So like if life hits you pretty hard a few ways and you start hitting the bottle or hitting something else, all of a sudden you're living on the streets. there's really nothing for you to do. So it's always interesting to me when people are like, aren't you afraid to go to the US because of the mass shooting problem? Or aren't you afraid of all the homeless people? And because like, they just don't have that here.
That's interesting.
It's always interesting. So it's kind of like one trade-off for another. And then I always mention, like, if you think cartel shit's not happening in the US, then my friend, you are quite naive. And you probably should stay in your mom's basement, not go out in the world, because
Definitely.
it's a very scary place and you don't have the skills to
A lot of people
survive
have
in it.
blinders on.
Yeah, they exist. There's an open border. Like,
Yeah.
it exists on both sides of the border. If you don't think there's
Mm-hmm.
beheadings or people, they call it guisado, where they burn them alive in these fucking oil drums because there's no forensic evidence. If you think that's not happening in the U.S., then I'm sorry. Like, I can't help you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, now people love to be blissfully unaware and just deny things, but yeah, 100% it's happening. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
One other thing I wanted to ask you too, Jaren, you seem very productive. You seem like things are very well structured in your life. What advice do you have for the audience on time management? Because it's like, obviously, you've done coaching. It seems like you have a very set routine and you're very successful. I'd love to know some tips on just how you structure your day, how you structure your week, and if you have any tips for people.
Yeah, I do. I do the same thing, guys that ask me like the fitness question. So I have like a flexible framework. There's things that need to be done. You working in tech, you'll understand this, like the agile process, like the sprints and scrums and all that stuff. So I do this in my professional life too. So like every 15, like whatever time frame it is, like in this 15 days, I'm here now. In 15 days, I need to be there. A lot of people get really into like at 8 o'clock I have to do this, at 10 o'clock I have to do this, and then at noon I do this. Life doesn't work that way. So, but in a longer time frame, and again, I do the same thing with diet. In 90 days, I need to be jacked. What does that look like? So that means 2 weeks in, maybe I can eat pizza. But if I'm 2 weeks away from that 90-day period, guess what? No more pizza. So, as you see it coming closer, you go that route. So with my time management, it's more like, here are the things that absolutely have to be done on a daily level. Here's the things that have to be done today. Some days I'm just in the mood to like get a coffee, sit down and crank it out and then be done by noon and have my afternoon open for creative stuff. Other days I'm just not feeling it, or I'm really packed with other things in my life. And I'm like, okay, I try to find a window and condense it all in there. Sometimes I'll try to contract it out, but it's really just, I always say necessities versus niceties. The necessities, they have to be done. It can be done whenever you want. Again, usually I don't have things that are pressing, like it has to be done today. It's like, well, in the next month, this needs to get done. And sometimes I'm just like, knock it all out. And sometimes I'll wait till the last minute, but it always gets done. And I always meet my goal set for whatever defined period of time there is. On a day-to-day thing, like, for example, yesterday, we got done with the festival at 4 a.m. or so Sunday night. And then obviously I was still kind of riding high, so to speak, from the weekend. Let's just say that.
Yeah, recovery.
So there was no sleep that night. So Monday morning, like I planned Monday to be completely free, where I was like, I'm gonna feel like dog shit. I'm gonna have a come down. I'm gonna be laying in bed. I'm gonna hate the world. But as I was still riding the residual effects of the substances from the weekend, I was like, well, I can get work done. So like, I'm not sleeping. I already accepted I'm not sleeping tonight. So
Yeah.
Monday morning, I got my work all done by noon, and then at that point, like the come down started hitting, and
There you go.
had the girl I went to the festival with. She came back over and ordered some pizza and watched some movies and smoked a little bit of indica and just relaxed. And we went and got massages, but I still got everything done.
Nice.
What I had pushed off for today, I got done yesterday, because in that moment, like, my brain is at a frequency to where, like, I've been amped up all weekend. I'm not going to bed tonight. It's not going to happen. So might as well ride this energy out and use it in a productive manner. And you notice you'll know from a lot of substances too, like they do help with productivity, not when you're like balls deep high in it, but like as it starts kind of fading off, I'm like, well, I can, like, at this point, it's like an Adderall effect. I can just get shit done.
Got like this found energy.
Yeah, exactly. And like, I knew I was beat from, going off of my basic fitness routine. So I skipped the gym yesterday, but today I went to the gym and did a double. And then last night fell asleep super early, slept like 12 hours because I threw a lot in my system over the weekend. And then today I woke up just right back on track. So there's a couple things I needed to get done. The girl from the festival, we had a recovery day yesterday. She spent the night. This morning she had to leave at like 11:30 or so. Had someone come over to measure some stuff for some new furniture in the apartment at noon. At 1, I had my singing class. So like, there are things that I build into the day, but I just kind of work around them with a flexible schedule. And An activity that I give to my coaching clients for guys that are like again, guys that are in a rut or guys that are just trying to figure it out is plan your perfect day. So what does your perfect day look like? And I used to be real strict again about like 8 a.m. I do this, 10 a.m. I do this. But I realized I started and I did this activity. I started doing it years ago with myself to where, well, sometimes I'm just not in the mood to be productive. Sometimes I'm not in a creative mood. Sometimes I'm not in an analytical mood. So have a list of the necessities versus niceties, things that absolutely have to get done or things that would be nice to get done, and then just kind of be in touch with your energy. So like yesterday morning, like I was literally amped up. Well, I can do all my bullshit job work that I don't want to do, like my admin type work, like do payments. I think I had to do some financial stuff, but like my senses were all like super overstimulated. So I was in the zone. I was able to do that kind of work. Now, if you'd asked me yesterday morning during the same time block, like, hey, like sit down and get really introspective and then write a song or figure some stuff out on the guitar, my brain was going like that. It's not going to happen. So I've learned to be more flexible with my time in the sense that things will get done. I know we had this podcast at a certain time, so I pushed the gym session until a little later today, just because after I'm done working out, I feel really good. I'm in a good energy state. It's a great state to talk.
You're pumped up.
Yeah, exactly that. So for me, time management, identify the things that have to be done, like the admin type stuff. I have like the analytical type things. I build creative blocks into my day. So there's tasks like things I need to do. Like I need to finish up a course I'm doing, but I need a 4-hour creative block for that. And a lot of people try to force themselves like, well, I'll do a couple minutes here, a couple minutes there. It's like, ask yourself, like analyze yourself. Are you productive if you start a task and then 15 minutes later you have to task switch to another task? Mm-hmm. I used to think I could multitask, which I can better than most people, but most people are pretty shit at it, and myself included. But if I can get like really singular on a task and give it my 100% energy and focus, and I have to be aligned energy wise to execute that task in a productive mindset or productive manner, then I'll go ahead and do that. And I shift a lot of those things around. I involve like my dating life. Also, there's a lot of times where I'll have a girl hit me up like 3 p.m. Hey, I'm in the neighborhood. Can I come over real quick? Well, yeah, I just have to shift some things around. Everything's still going to get done when it needs to get done. But let's say normally I'll have a girl come over at 8 p.m., but someone hits me up at 3 p.m. Then, okay, I'll see her from like 3 to 5 p.m. or 3 to 6 p.m. And then my night might just get pushed back a little bit. So, but at the end of the day, it all gets done. However, I'm flexible when I do it and how I do it, just based on how I feel in the moment. And that requires a lot of in-depth self-knowledge. That requires you to make I always say I'm my own best friend. So. Yeah. You need to know yourself pretty well to know, like, hey, I'm just not in the mood to write today. That's or great. I'm not in the mood to do a spreadsheet. And then you might find yourself like, hey, I don't have much going on. My mind is crystal sharp. Let's get this done. Let's take care of it.
That's really good advice. I think a lot of people want to be super like rigid with themselves in the beginning, and that tends to never work. It always backfires.
It's not how humans work.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So if you know yourself and you give yourself a little bit of room to move things around, that's the perfect way to do it. I've also noticed in myself that free time incites laziness. Yeah. If I have like too much free time, then I just won't do anything. Yeah. But if I have like a couple things going on, then I'll know like, oh, now this is the time where I can do this. Mm-hmm. It makes you like roll more. It's sort of a momentum. But
little bit of structure is nice.
Yeah, a little bit of structure, but not too much.
Sometimes if it's too much structure, like I've definitely in the past fallen into the trap where I'll do like a to-do list, but instead of where it should be like 3 things, and you said like the necessities and the niceties, I'll put like 6 or 7 things, and then I'm like, well, fuck it, I'm just gonna take a nap.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Definitely.
Which sometimes I'll do that too. There are days where like, hey, I'm just exhausted. I'm just not in the right headspace to be productive at all. So I'll take a nap in the afternoon. Maybe my night will look a little later. But I remember, you guys probably remember this, like especially with your current job, where when I had to do any sort of creative output at work, and I used to hate this, like, all right, from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. on Tuesday, Jaren, we need you to structure your calendar. That's your creative time. Like, okay, just because you dictate that's when I'm going to be creative. That's how
suddenly I'm going to turn it on.
You're a terrible manager and a terrible human, and I imagine you're unhappy in your life because that's not how humans fucking work. Now, if you want to be creative, like there'll be nights where I'm just tired for some reason. So at 8 p.m. I'll fall asleep, and then at 3 a.m. I wake up and just boom, like a whole crystal clear image of a very complex problem I've been working on right in front of me, like broadcast in the back of my eyes, and I got to write it down as fast as fucking possible.
Yep.
That's how most creative people work.
Exactly. It comes
It's
to
not like
you.
we're going to structure our creative output. No, you're
Exactly.
not.
It comes to you at random times, like you said, 3 a.m. or in the shower or on a walk or as you're driving randomly, just like, oh, idea, and save it as a note in your phone.
And then the idea starts to build on itself, and you're like, whoa, I got to take time out. Like now it's time to work. Like now I'm going to have creative output because this idea is bigger than me, and it's going to be a fleeting idea. If I don't write it down, it's done. It's gone. I'm not going to remember it.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I'll have that sometimes. I'm sure you have that with music, I would imagine a bunch.
Yes, with music.
Well. But
I'll have like full songs. I'll dream in like full songs. Like, oh my God, what's the name of that song? And I'm trying to remember it. I'm a lucid dreamer too, so I know I'm in a dream and I can wake myself up. Like, all right, Jaren, write down a verse in the dream and then wake yourself up and actually write it down in real life.
That's cool.
And then I'll be looking for it. I'm like, what the fuck song is that? That's an awesome song. And I realize, it doesn't exist. Like you invented it. It came from me. Yeah.
That's interesting. That's cool. That's super
What we were saying way earlier about sort of meditating in the morning and having this sort of clairvoyance in the morning, I totally understand. There's that moment between your being asleep and being awake, that state for like 5 minutes that you have in the morning there, where I get some of my best ideas, and I'll always curse myself if I don't write it down because it goes way so fast. But you're not thinking; they come to you, right? Yeah, right after sleep, because I think your mind's just so clear. And then the other time I get some of the best ideas is when I'm at the gym, like running gets me going with ideas. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Active body, it makes your mind just fire.
Yeah.
I like the gym a lot too because as creatives, it is tough. And luckily, like in the corporate culture, they do those like psychology exams or whatever. It's like, are you right brained or left brained, or what's your personality type? I'm always 50-50 right and left brain. So once you realize that, like sometimes I'll lean, like there'll be periods when I'm really into the analytical side, and I'll go days out listening to music. It'll annoy me if I hear any noises or whatever, or I can't listen to music because then I'll go into the creative side and it'll pull me out of the analytical side. So I recognize those moments too. I'll have spurts of like creative energy, and then I'll have days where it's just pure, just numbers and sense and rigidness and structure. And that's why I like the gym a lot, because it builds a bit of a baseline. Like you have to be somewhat structured, but lately in the gym, I haven't been structured at all. I just go in there and just do whatever I feel, as long as I exhaust the muscle and just get done what the goal is for the day, which a lot of guys, if you're not like super into fitness, a lot of guys like, oh, just go and break down the muscle and then like you're not constantly bulking. Right. Sometimes I want to have an active movement day where I'm just working out the flexors, or there's other days where I want like a blood flow day. Like I'm still lifting, or like if I'm a lot leaner and I have low body fat, I want a volumization day. Like I want the muscle to be full of blood, but like I'm not breaking it down. I'm so lean. If I break it down, it's not going to recover, and then I'm gonna hurt myself in the next day. So it's whatever that goal set is for the day. But the activity of gym is something that I do daily. The activity of music is something I do daily, and those kind of balance each other out. The gym forces you to be structured. Music, to a degree, I think, like we were talking about, the classical musicians are a little too structured. Sometimes I'm a little too out there, so it's looking for that balance. And I in terms of structuring my day too, this perfect day activity. Years ago, I thought like my day is going to consist of things I look forward to doing. So like I look forward to my morning coffee. I look forward to my morning walk. A lot of times I don't want to go to the gym, so I focus not on working out. I focus on the walk home from the gym and how great it feels to walk home after a workout. And I think when you get to the point where you have your life, and it takes a lot of work, guys, but when you get to the point to where your life consists of things you mostly look forward to, then things become really easy, really fast. I don't know how else to say it, but
that makes a lot of sense.
Like stop doing shit that sucks and start doing more stuff that's awesome.
Yeah. From the top, when we were talking about sort of the general idea of when you're stuck in a rut, how to get out. That's one of them, is like you need to always have a goal that is just for yourself, really, and not for anyone else.
Always have something to look forward to.
Exactly. And people do lose sight of that because they feel, I don't know, they get bogged down in the whole rigmarole of daily life. But we've always had a good sixth sense for that. We've often texted each other and been like, man, this 9 to 5 thing, we're getting too like into it. We need to break the mold. And we know when we need to like snap out of it. We've been able to do that for ourselves for years, always, and I'm very happy that we can. But I think a lot of people don't have that sense or feel like they can't do that. They're like afraid to maybe break out of that mold. I think
they're kind of unconsciously just being self-limiting because they've never broken out of it to begin with.
Well, they don't have their own mental framework clearly defined, and when you're like that, you're kind of just like a feather in the wind. You just go wherever the breeze blows you. And guess what? There's people out there that will take advantage of people like that. Not saying that like your job, you know, like your employers are taking advantage of you. Obviously, you're exchanging time for money. You know, there's a voluntary agreement there, but a lot of people, due to the lack of structure, the lack of their own internal belief systems or frameworks, they allow themselves to be susceptible to falling into or being almost sucked into frameworks set out by other people. Yeah. And guess what? If you don't follow your own framework, then even guys, I mean, even guys that follow me, like guys will sign up for my community and they're like, Jaren, we give us all the answers. Like, no, I'm going to give you a flexible framework that you define per your terms, your goals, your wants, needs, desires, the life you want to live. People are like, oh, Jaren, you live in Mexico, I'm going to move to Mexico like you. Like, but you like snowboarding. Like, don't move here then. Right, like my life's not your life, but like I'll try to give you the structures so you can begin the process of creating like your own, again, internal operating system, mental framework, way in which you architect your own universe. But if you don't have that, then it's really easy to be like, oh, I saw this guy on YouTube and like now I'm going to believe 100% of the shit he says. You're like, all right.
A lot of people have a bad habit of that. And I'm sure you see that on the front lines where a lot of times people will go in and they'll watch content and they'll regurgitate it, but they're not actually thinking for themselves. Yeah. It's like they're absorbing, but it's almost like it's going in one ear and out the other, and they're not really taking the lessons to heart, and they're just kind of saying what they think people want to hear, but they're still doing the same old shit, and they're not really making any changes.
Have you guys had this happen yet? So we talked about the haters, but sometimes you get like your true fans to the point where especially like I've started going to some of these meetups where I'll meet these people in real life, and then you realize when you're talking to them, you're not talking to a person. They're just repeating back everything you've ever said publicly to you.
Right.
And it's a weird feeling. Like I'm talking to myself, but I'm really into like a lot of guys in the ministry. They don't like to talk about like emotions or the woo woo or like the spiritual stuff. And I always use the analogy like, hey, great. That's cool. If you don't believe in that, it's your own thing, but you're a smartphone without a data plan. That's what you are. So for me, like I have a very good data plan. It took me one of the later things in my progression or my transformation journey, whatever you want to call it, was to start tapping into these things beyond you, like the more ethereal type woo-woo type topics or whatever guys want to call it. But I'll meet these people. So like logically, I'm like, oh, I should like this guy because he believes 100% of what I say. But you can feel, again, that there's still that dissonance for like, your core energy, there's nothing there. Like you're kind of soulless, you're dead, you don't have that spark in you. You're like a human computer and you're just regurgitating back to me exactly what I believe, and it's kind of off-putting.
Have you
guys met fans like that before?
Yeah, absolutely.
There's some people out there. I've had some that have reached out to us that are really cool. There's some people that I talk to and I'm like, oh, they get it, they vibe. But then there's a few other people where it's like, there's a bit of a hollowness.
I've noticed what my brother and I do on our YouTube channel is lots of gaming, and there's one specific game that we've sort of focused on. And I've had a lot of times fans will just like dump like memes from this game onto me. They'll just send them to me, or
they
they'll
think
try
that's like what you're all about.
Yeah, exactly. Or they'll just try to say like a quote from the game, and the subtext is always, "You like this, right? Isn't this funny to you?" And it's like I don't know who I'm talking to, and it's clear they're just trying to like, I know he likes this, so I'm going to show this to him. Yeah, it's like this weird, and you get no sense of their self, and it's off-putting. Exactly, yeah.
Which, it's weird talking to someone. Again, it's like you're talking in a mirror, but you're seeing a different face looking back at you.
Yeah.
But then you realize, like, my framework's not going to work for you because you don't live the same life I do.
Yeah.
You live in Cleveland, Ohio, and I live in Mexico City as a gringo in a high-rise. The way I live my life is not going to translate very well.
That's the title of your first book right there, Jaren.
Yeah, right?
Gringo in a high-rise. But I think, seeing it on the front line, like, when I've watched, like, Unplug Alpha videos, there's a lot of guys, not to shit on them, but there are a lot of young guys who will call into Rich's show, and they're doing exactly that. It's like they're saying a lot of the buzzwords. They clearly have been listening to a lot of the content, but they're out of alignment, if that makes sense. There was a guy I was listening to recently. I think it was on the Becky one that he just posted. It was literally I just listened to it. And one of the dudes on there he was at the end of the podcast, and not to shit on the guy, I don't know him. Could be a great guy, but he was very out of alignment with what he wanted to do. And he was talking to Rich about that, and he was saying, he was really into surfing, but his life was
yeah.
like totally the opposite of that. And I think there's so many people.
Yeah, he lives in Connecticut.
Yeah, not to pick on that dude, it's like I don't know his life, but just to use him as an example, it's just kind of like there's so many people that I've met who are doing exactly that, and they're doing something either because their family thinks they should do it or because they've somehow built up in their mind that that's the path they need to be on. But really deep down, if you really talk to them just for a few minutes, you see, oh dude, you need to be doing something totally different. Like, you're working in this corporate structure, but like you want to be a veterinarian, like go do that. You know what I mean? It's like, and that's just an example, but like, or that dude, you want to be a surf instructor or fill in the blank. And I think a lot of people are just really out of alignment, and it's sad,
Yeah, it's interesting because you'll like guys like us, I don't know if it's the correct term, but more evolved in our own personal journey.
I'll take it.
But yeah, let's say that.
Yeah.
To where you'll hear these guys like I think you use the correct term. They're like out of alignment with themselves, where they'll be like, yeah, I've been with a girlfriend for a while. She's a little dumpy, and I'm a little out of shape. Man, I'm drinking too much, and yeah, maybe I could clean up the diet, but I'm happy. Like you can just hear their voices.
It's like, are you though? Like, yeah.
And then you ask them. Well, for guys, we haven't touched these topics much tonight, but a lot of guys on my channel like the dating topics, like. Well, yeah, actually, Rich had a caller last night where it's like, oh, I can get a girl on like 2 or 3 dates, and then she just disappears. And Rich is like, dude, you're boring as fuck. Like you're not captivating, and
you could hear it in his voice.
And like when I'm sitting across from a girl, you'll do this too. Like you're trying to get to know them, you'll feel them out, and like you'll say something, you can just see their eyes light up, or their whole body lights up, and like. Okay, well, let's explore that topic more. And then if there's topics where they're just kind of like, oh, they're bored as fuck, then like don't touch those topics. Or if there's topics that are like traumatic, and then you start to create, like when you communicate with people, you start to create the way I have my own mental framework. I ask questions to start to visualize their mental framework, and then how do we marry these two things? To what degree do I want them operating on my system? To what degree do I want to maybe give up some things and get into their system? And this is usually a bit of give and take. Guys in the manosphere space, or like the dating space, as they call it, the girl has to come into your frame, but that's literally what that means.
Yeah.
And for me on a date, it's not like, oh, I'm gonna try to fuck this girl as fast as possible. It's like how well does she fit into my frame, to what degree, and in what areas of my life. And then I'm literally just asking questions like I'm talking to a new sales prospect. Like, is it a good fit? And you'll touch on topics, and you can see it just light them up. So the girl I took to the music festival, I've been seeing her for more than a year.
Very cute, by the way. I saw her on Instagram. Very cute.
Yeah, she's super cute. Yeah, she's not from here in town. She's a real young girl, but from possibly from one of the families of the topic we were talking about earlier. A lot of these are normal people.
Alrighty.
From one of those areas.
Okay.
But super, and a lot of these girls are super cute. Their daddy's girls are conservative, so she comes to the city, and she usually hangs out with me. And I've met the family and stuff. And again, it sounds crazy, but it's a completely different culture down here. So like, obviously, if your dad's a fucking baller, like he knows how the game works. Like he knows that we're doing other stuff than just hanging out. But what's the comparison? Like, daughter comes down here, she has a good time. I've had dads here literally tell me like, hey, once my girl started dating you, like she's just, not that she was ever unpleasant, but she's more pleasant to be around. Or a lot of times it strengthens the relationship with like dads and brothers or other males in her life. Same thing I've noticed too. Girls that have good relationships with their dads, guess what? They have great relationships with me. Fucking funny how that works.
Very true. Yeah.
But she come down. She's super cute. You can tell she's from a conservative family, but like she's into the mind altering topics. She's into like the EDM music. She's into these things, but in her networks where she's from, she can't really explore these types of areas. So people that are smart, again, like her family or like her dad especially, is like, well, she's gonna do it anyways. Like, would I rather have her do it with a guy like Jaren, which I was real responsible the whole weekend, like in terms of like dosing and guidelines and like how the come up and the come down, little things like taking ecstasy. Like her fucking cousin was here, and she's chomping it up and throwing it back, and I'm telling my girl, I was like, boy. No, like. Nope. Like, be very, like we did the preparation, like we ate well beforehand, put it in something fatty. So like crush up a tab and put it in like a big peanut butter banana shake, and then just sip on it over the next few hours, because that kind of, it milds your come up, and it also milds your come down. Like guys that
Smart.
when they get really drunk, like, oh man, I'm so fucked up. Yeah. You threw back 8 shots. Your BAC went straight to the roof, and now it's going to come straight down. Whereas me, I'll drink like a beer every 40 minutes or so. Let's assume your body eliminates one per hour. So
Sure.
there's a bit that's not being eliminated, but I'm slowly coming up. And then when I decide it's done, I immediately start hydrating, usually hydrate the whole time and start coming down. So
Yeah.
the way I map out like my drug interactions with my own body, well, I can just look at her because I've done the bodybuilding stuff in the past and calculate, the relative doses and guide her through the entire weekend. That's bringing her into my frame at a
Yeah.
very, very deep level. And that requires a lot of trust
Yeah.
on her part to be like, hey, I'm gonna let this guy that I've been seeing for like a year on and off, whenever she's in town, she's with me, and I'm assuming when she's out of town, she can do whatever, she's not a part of my reality at that time in the
Sure.
physical sense.
Sure.
And it's cool like being able to bring someone into your frame at that level, and then you have a shared experience together. And a lot of guys, when it comes like the dating topics or any topics in their lives, like I keep getting back to the point, guys that in ruts, like they lack this framework. Again, probably some of you folks listening probably like blows your mind, like what the fuck. Or I'll get comments like, oh, you're a drug addict. Like, no, there's a very different thing. And like
Yeah.
planning for a weekend of debauchery, but very controlled
Yes.
debauchery, and knowing how your body works, know how you respond to substances, and then mapping out your entire experience to the point to like, my goal is to let myself go this weekend, but to let yourself go, you have to have yourself together, and you have to know what that looks like to be able to let yourself go. So you can be a term like guys that use those sorts of substances, like sometimes you'll get too out in the ether and you have to ground yourself, and if you're not already grounded at your core, I would recommend staying away from those types of experiences.
There you go.
Yeah,
Perfectly put.
in America, there's a huge lack of a sense of control of your intake of substances, right?
Yes.
And people either, like you're saying, everyone's just knocking back shots. They're not enjoying it. They don't know really how to do it. And then, so that's why I think there's that.
It becomes amateur hour and everyone gets all shit faced.
At least here, like everyone assumes everyone's like that. So if you're doing any of that at all, like, oh yeah, you're a drug addict, you're an alcoholic.
That's one thing I've noticed here, even at the music festival. You don't see a lot of people. You don't see a lot of fights. You don't see people passed out. You don't see people sleeping. You don't see people throwing up as they're walking down the street.
They can
like
control
the
themselves.
drinking culture is different here.
Interesting.
I think it goes back more to the social networks here. Like you learn how to drink when you're young here. I came down here when I was like 18, 19 years old. So I learned how to drink in a place that they responsibly drink, so to speak. Whereas in the U.S., it's just, especially even like more conservative areas, you have all these like conservative kids, and all of a sudden they go to this like liberal ass college town, and like your Mormon daughter who's never had caffeine, all of a sudden she has all of these drugs and dicks and shit at her
Sometimes drugs on the dicks, right?
yeah, and they go completely off the fucking rails, and then they can't get themselves put back together.
Exactly.
In the meantime, they're getting this ideology of like your upbringing is wrong and your culture is wrong and your belief system is wrong, and I think it's done by design, personally, just to completely fracture these human beings and then squeeze them into another mold, which is the corporate consumerism, capitalist, which capitalism used to get a bad rap for that. I don't even think it's really capitalistic anymore, because if it was, the mainstream would be saying, go start your own business, don't work for a company. You can do it. Here's how you do it. We don't hear that narrative. So I think a lot in the U.S. is, again, the reason I say this is because like I'm an average guy and I can see it in front of my own eyes. Like, here's how you fracture a person and ruin their life, and you see it being done at a societal level. You're like, well, is it intentional? Probably, likely. If we know it, the powers that be, I'm sure, know it. And
100%.
if not, that's scary as fuck. But again, you don't get to those positions by being a dipshit, not being aware of reality.
That's so true. That's so true.
Yeah, and I hate to say it, but there's going back to our overarching point here, there is an element of just who you are innately that will either drive you to keep setting your own goals for yourself and setting your own sights regardless of what's going on around you, or being someone who wants to go with the flow and do what everyone else is doing. Yeah. I've always been, and I think you too, we've always been kind of stubborn and grounded in what we know we want to do, and everything around us is just sort of noise. That's where the whole name like Unfazed comes from, because you just like everything else.
Yeah, I like
just,
that name.
Exactly. Yeah.
Thanks, man.
But there's two sides to that coin, because there are moments when everyone's really enjoying something, and I just don't get it, and like part of me like wishes, hey, I wish I could agree with this, I wish I could enjoy this, but I just don't.
Yeah.
And I'm not like trying to be a contrarian or anything, but I'm just I'm so sure of my own sensibilities, and I can't be like swayed
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, there are two sides to that. Like it's good because it keeps you moving and it keeps you true to yourself. But then I feel like sometimes I'm almost like missing out on some of these, pop culture things, these waves, because I just
that.
like it.
Yeah.
I'm unfazed by it. So,
And I think a lot of people, let's be honest, especially, a lot of girls, guys too, they see something that's popular and they just latch onto it. I remember a while back you'd said you ran into some girls who they acted like they were obsessed with Spider-Man. And it's like you saw them at a bar.
Yes, it was so
and
weird.
you could tell that they weren't actually. It was just because at that time that was like the weekend that
Homecoming
the
came
new
out,
Spider-Man movie came out.
Yeah.
And you're like, these girls. I mean, that maybe that's not the best example, but those types of people.
No, it's true. It was bizarre because it was like these run of the mill, sorority girls that probably do lots of porn or whatever. And they were talking about how they loved like Spider-Man. Was No Way Home the most recent one? And it was like, I love Spider-Man. It's like, what the fuck?
And I'm like,
this seems so
it's
weird.
Like, do you, or is it just because it came out 3 days ago at that point in time?
Yeah.
Or it's like, if you ever date a girl and she's like really into a sports team and it's nowhere remotely related to where she lives, like, all right, it's either her dad, her brother, or like an ex-boyfriend.
Exactly.
Which I got into a really interesting conversation in Miami. There's a night like after I was there kind of half on business, half for pleasure. So at the end of going back to my hotel, I was in South Beach and I lit up beforehand, kind of like, oh, day's over. Like usually at the end of the day after this, I'll smoke a joint, I'll chill. It puts me in a different energy state. So that's how I kind of like mentally decompress for the day. Because otherwise, I have a lot of energy. I just won't sleep naturally. Yeah. So I have to like do a shutdown procedure at the end of the day. So Miami was kind of like, "Ooh, Jaren, good job. Good day. We got done. We needed to get done. Like smoked a J, waiting for my Uber." And the guy who picked me up, he was a Bahamian immigrant, high as all fuck. And we got to talking about like international sports teams, like the NFL going into new markets, and it was such a good conversation to the point where like once he dropped me off, I was looking at my phone. We kept talking for like another 26 minutes in the car. like we were both clearly high as fuck.
Nice.
And
getting deep.
And he was talking about how like the NFL strategically goes into markets. Like there's like they want to get like a bigger Latin viewership. So the NFL has a game or two down here in Mexico City every year. They had a game, I believe, in Munich and London. So there was a girl I dated here my first time around, like almost 20 years ago now, and she was always a Steelers fan. And I always wondered, like, why is she a Steelers fan? Well, it turns out like one of the first games ever played in Mexico City was between like the Cowboys and Steelers.
That's funny.
So I always wonder, like, I'm sure, again, if I know it, I'm sure the NFL knows it. Like, what teams do we want to expand to which markets?
Strategic.
Like, how do they select which teams? Because whatever team plays first in an emerging sports market, like that'll probably be the team most people like.
Yeah,
that makes perfect sense.
Yeah,
which
funny.
Yeah, it was my high Bahamian Uber driver that gave me that realization. I'm like, damn, dude, because one thing, like guys that get into like some of these like red pill type topics, they get a little dogmatic about it.
Yeah.
Like, and I previous to this conversation, I always wondered that, like, all right, I don't want to be dogmatic with the red pill, but like with this ex-girlfriend from college, why does she like the Steelers so much? She obviously had a boyfriend, and if I were, again, a guy without my own structured belief system and like I first came across a red pill, I'd be like, oh, she must be cheating. I mean, she's fucking some guy that likes the Steelers. Like she's talking like him, she's thinking like him, she likes his music. Like turns out it could be as much as just like that's the first game that was played in Mexico City, and she went when she was like 8 years old, and it was a memory she created with her family, or her dad, or her brothers, or her cousins, or whatever, and very fond, and she digs the sport, and she's a diehard fan to this day, although she's never been to Pittsburgh.
Right. Yeah, that's so interesting.
That's funny. Yeah, you see a lot of that. Just to pivot for a minute here before I forget. Great conversation by the way, man, loving it.
Oh, it's rolling. Yeah, we're on like hour 3.
I'm a big fan, and honestly, I think the audience is gonna love it too. So they'll always say, "Ooh, juicy podcast." When it's a long one, so we got a big juicy one for you guys.
I want to start doing more of these because it's tough to like storyboard a video and come up with it and like do all the shots and shit. Like just hitting record and just letting it fly.
Yeah, dude.
I've always been a long form radio guy, even before podcasts were a thing. I grew up on Adam Carolla on the West Coast, listening to Loveline every night. Yep.
Yeah, no, it's great, man. Really an honor to have you on. But I'm the same way too. It's like just long form, I feel like, is where it's at, and a lot of our audience, really loves it. Like people love the podcast. But before
I think I'm gonna do more of that on my channel, and then just do the clips for social
absolutely,
media.
Yeah.
You totally should, man. Like like I said, how I got introduced to you was through the 1% Generals meetings and watching you on there. And it's like I love hearing you long form as well. I mean, your short stuff is great, but long form, I mean, you really shine.
Long form, short form's tough for me because I'm not a short form thinker.
Right,
before I say something, it's something again in my head. There's like a panoramic view of everything regarding the topic.
Yeah,
And you'll
absolutely.
notice that Rich is very good. He's very professional. I think he probably was a DJ in a former life, long before internet was even a thing. But
Yeah.
he's very good at like keeping the show at a cadence. I've
Hmm.
learned with him, like the way he and I communicate. If he asks me a question, I have like 2 or 3 minutes to get the point across. But really, in my head, there's an entire
You
thesis
want to
that I
keep
could
going?
present on the topic. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, and I try to strike a balance. Sometimes it's like I try not to interrupt, but sometimes I still do. But it's you get into a groove, we have a couple guys on our Discord who wrote in, and they had a few things that they wanted to discuss. So
Yeah.
I promised them that we'd talk about them on the podcast. So actually, this one he says I can mention him. Lever action, wacky
Lever
tobacco.
action.
I would actually like you to read this one.
Oh, sure.
This is from him, and it's something that we can kind of dissect a little bit.
All right, so this first little story is from Lever Action. Thank you. So he says, I saw an attractive woman at the bar often and eventually talked with her, and it came up we both had a kid, so we started getting the kids together for play dates. Then we started going out on dates and having drinks together at the bar regularly. Then one day I got an angry text message telling me that I'd better not ever be in the car with his wife again, along with some other choice words from me. Then she started just flat out ignoring me at the bar, and I haven't even gotten a straight, honest answer from her about anything and probably never will. Now, as well, all the people that know them at the bar hate me. I thought for the first time in years I had made a genuine connection with someone. Really just a bummer. Sounds like it.
Yeah.
With
It is.
She acts with I think there's a typo here. She acts with so many women just being so much like that. It's hard to imagine ever being able to genuinely trust anyone. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a bum,
Sure,
right?
yeah.
I talked to him a little bit, privately, and basically I said, a thing that Jaren has talked about for sure. A lot of women like that are never held accountable, and they'll pull shit like that again
Yeah,
and
it's
again
true,
and again,
yeah.
and it's not the first time, it's not the last time, and she's not the only one who's going to do that.
Yeah.
But I just told him it's a bummer, man, but don't let it drag you down. Don't let it ruin your day too much.
And it's important to remember that the heat always unfairly so goes to the dude. Like he was the victim in the situation, and yet he's like, I'm gonna fuck
Yeah,
you up,
exactly.
right? Yeah. So it's like, yeah, it's stupid.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on that,
Yeah.
Jaren?
Yeah, a lot of guys are like that, where they'll go after the other guy, which me in like high school, maybe I've been like, oh, fuck that guy. He's trying to go after my girl. But if my girl's opening that channel of communication and she knows she's with me, that's on the girl. Like
Yeah.
the correct response, if it
Totally.
were like the husband who, was obviously being cheated on in that scenario, both guys are technically the victims in that case.
Yeah.
So in that story, and like in an ideal fantasy world, like those two should band together, be like, no, dude, fuck this chick, she's
Exactly.
toxic,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
like likely those guys would be friends, but that's not how reality works.
Yep.
In this case, I think where you probably screwed up is like once you started getting the kids involved.
Yeah.
If you had just kept it as like flirtatious at the bar, and then like you were her dirty little secret, like her little fun fuck toy or whatever on the side, you probably would have been fine. But like as the kids are going, like,
Yeah.
because you have to realize a lot of times for women, like down here, I keep mentioning they have more social structures. I'm sure there's plenty of girls I've dated that have been married or that are in relationships, and a lot of girls do cheat, and a lot of them will cheat with guys like me. But what you really want to do with any girl you're dating, you just don't want to embarrass her. You don't want to ruin her reputation. So I think a lot of that probably came into the situation. Like once the kids started hanging out,
Sure.
probably other kids in the children's friend group started talking about it. It seems like it's a tight enough knit community to where like everyone at the bar hates you. Obviously, there's a strong social network there. So, one of the big rules I usually have is like I don't shit where I eat. So
Yeah.
that's a loose rule. I will pick up girls at the gym, but gym's kind of like a more social environment. So if it's a girl I see time and time again, and we're like, I know she lives in the neighborhood, and I kind of know her routine, and we bump into each other all the time. Like I had a girl a couple days ago. I was like, I worked out later in the evening. I was like, hey, the sun's about ready to go down. Like the park's literally like 4 blocks from here. It's one of the biggest like city parks in the world. It's like, hey, let's go for a walk and watch the sunset. It's like, oh, okay, cool, let's go. So do it kind of like that, a little more discreet. But I think the sense that you started weaving yourself into the social aspect of her life, and perception wise, like the husband it's one thing to be cucked as a guy or to be cheated on, like, oh fuck, like oh, you went out of town for a conference and you banged some guy in the that you met at the hotel lobby, versus, oh, you're dating some guy who's a part of our social structure.
Right.
That's gonna cause a lot of that, because not only are you affecting her reputation, you're affecting the guy's reputation too, and that's just inviting problems you don't want in your life. If you are dating married chicks or taking chicks or whatever, just do that shit discreetly. And again, a lot of girls will cheat, but just know that you probably shouldn't do that stuff publicly.
Yeah.
And again, don't let that turn you off to all women.
Yeah.
For guys that have like multiple dating options, you'll learn, if you ever decide to go down that road, you kind of fit girls into different buckets. So like I mentioned, like this young girl, like I'll take her to another music festival. She was a fantastic music festival partner, but when it's time to go to like a cigar bar or jazz lounge and talk business with older gentlemen, well, I take one of my classier girls. I take a girl that has like a high degree of education, who would never do MDMA or like ecstasy or shit like that, would not even on her fucking mind, like just not even a possibility in her world. But I can bring her into that aspect of my life, or that vertical
cool.
of my life. So again, going back to the structure thing, it's just really, and it's hard for guys like to understand, like what are the larger forces at play? What do the social dynamics look like? And, how does that affect her kids, her guy, her place of employment? And I think in your case, just for now, probably a safe rule is just don't shit where you eat.
Yeah. And I think in his defense too, for lever action, he didn't know she was married. That was the thing. That's
the
what I
tough
got.
part.
Yeah, that's the tough part. But yeah. Yeah, I agree
Yeah,
though. The not shitting where you eat though is very solid.
Yeah, and that's a real tough part. I'm trying to think, because there's kind of different levels in dating. Like this is a problem I probably would have had like maybe a decade ago. But you get to a certain level where like the girls in my life, even if they are married, that they're never going to tell me, but it doesn't matter, because girls, I would say girls have a roster. So she'll have the husband, like especially in these cultures, a lot of marriages here, they're like more kind of for the social stature. And I'll meet girls my age, I'm 35, that are hot as fuck, and they're married. I'm like, hey, I don't want to get involved. Like, I don't want some fucking Mexican dude coming after me. And and I've heard this time and time again. Like, oh no, he's got a girlfriend. She's like 19 years old, and he has an apartment for her. It's more just like political or social or kind of just the appearance thing. And he fucks his chicks, and I can have my guy on the side. I'm like, oh, okay, well, if that's the case, and
That's interesting.
and you can tell, like, the way the girl talks about, like, there's no love in that marriage for a while. And in Latin cultures, a lot of times the guys are alpha as fuck down here, so that if you're relatively successful, you will have multiple girls. That's just kind of how they're structured in these societies. So there's a bit of a cultural difference there, but I'd say, yeah, that's definitely a tough one, especially I'm assuming you're in the U.S. That's
Yeah, he's up by I believe he's up near Maine.
That's pretty common in the U.S. these days. Again, I don't like to be red pill dogmatist or anything, but I always like to say, and like, she's not yours, it's just your turn. So treat it like you're watching a Netflix film. Like back in the day, you'd go and buy like the release from the Disney vaults, and you'd get the VHS, and you're like, yeah, I own it, it's mine. You can watch it as many times as you want. Well, now you just go on Netflix and you watch it, but guess what? Everyone else is watching it too, and then maybe next week that title's not there anymore. But you can still get enjoyment out of the platform. You can still like, that doesn't mean, oh, I wanted to watch Forrest Gump last week and now it's not on there anymore. Now I have to buy it on Prime. Like, fuck Netflix. Like, no, there's still the content on the platform. You can enjoy it. So don't let it turn off dating or women in general. Just know that there's different experiences you're going to get out of it. And for me, I treat dating like experiences. As a guy, you're selling an experience, and the girl's looking for an experience. So unfortunately, your situation, you wanted it to go a little further. You're probably a single dad, thought she was a single mom. You're like, hey, we can do the Brady Bunch thing, combine families. It works out well for us. You started building a future mental structure of how your lives could envelop each other and merge or marry into one. And then all of a sudden you got blindsided the fact that, oh, she's done that with someone else and she's doing something she probably shouldn't be doing. Well, that doesn't mean you have to turn off dating altogether. Again, if you're a little more advanced, you probably could have structured that to where you could just put her in the fun category and these issues wouldn't have come up. But realize if she, let's say hypothetically, she were still in the picture, like, okay, well, she's just a fuck toy. Like, she's just a friend with benefits. Don't put a girl maybe that easily in the potential marriage category, or we can merge families until you've really, really done your vetting. And it's tough for guys too, because I'm the same way. I do a lot of dating. I have a lot of women in my life, but I will meet a girl every now and then. It's like, fuck, I really like this one. And then, but you got to vet her. And then eventually when you have multiple options too, eventually something will come up that's a deal breaker. You're like, oh well, 3 weeks ago I was all into her, now I'm like kind of annoyed by her.
100%. Yeah, I've had that with a couple girls in the past too, where it's like, oh man, this girl checks all the boxes, like I'm head over heels, amazing, and then you're like, hold on, and don't fall into this trap again. And then you give it, month and a half, 2 months, and you're like, oh shit, and then the red flags start popping up, and you're like, oh man, well, I'm glad I didn't fall into it that easy.
Yeah.
Let's look at that. Was really good though. But yeah, as far as lever action goes, don't give up, man, because I know I could kind of tell he was getting a little disillusioned with the whole process. But shit happens. There's dishonest people out there, dishonest girls, and I think Jaren hit the nail on the head. Maybe don't elevate him to that status so quickly.
I always remind myself too in dating, when one falls off, the next one's going to be just a little bit better, and just not like it'll never be as worse. It'll never be worse than the last one.
Yeah.
Great advice, man. Thank you. All right, we got one more. This is from Doombot. Shout out to Doombot. Great guy. So kind of a long one here. Back in 2019, I became a teacher at a middle school in a really tough part of Houston. Wasn't my first pick, but you take what you can get. I went on to live through some of the worst, most traumatic months of my life. That sounds overly dramatic, but it was really a miserable experience. Completely disrespectful and out of control kids, parents who didn't care, admin whose only answer to our problems was to pile more work on us. It left me so physically and mentally exhausted that I couldn't really enjoy my life outside of work, but I was paying all the bills and couldn't afford to quit, although I considered it very many times. My advice to anyone in a miserable job is, number one, to accept that it probably won't get better. That sounds weird. When I stopped hoping that the situation would magically improve, it helped me get more level-headed and gave me a weird feeling of peace about the whole thing. Number two is to realize that you won't be doing it forever and everything comes to an end. In my experience, things being really bad means that something good is around the corner. As luck would have it, a certain pandemic hit a couple months into the spring semester, and I never saw any of those little shitheads again. In the fall, I quit and spent the rest of 2020 doing Ubers and waiting tables, which was a horrible financial situation, but never bad enough to regret leaving that job. Life is 1,000% better now, in case you're wondering. Just a PS, most times I would finish teaching at the end of the day, and I would throw on some LaFave Bros or Unfazed. Watching you guys went such a long way to keep my mind off of things, and I'm truly grateful to you for making the stuff you make and being such cool and nice guys. Thank you.
Wow, that's humbling. Yeah. That's nice.
Sorry to ramble. Yeah. Excited to hear the pod and remain unfazed. Doombot, thank you so much. That was very, very well put, and I do think that's important when you're in a shitty situation. At least for me, like the last job I was at, I started working on an escape plan. I started, laying the foundation and putting things out like, okay, how am I going to get out of this? How am I going to dig myself out of this? And that's super critical. But also his point on accepting that the bad situation's not going to get better is really motivating too. So I think that was a really good thing to mention.
Getting real with yourself.
Yeah.
It's liberating too. Because because I didn't know where initially the comment was going to go. I thought it was going to be like, oh, well, I love teaching. What do I do? In which case my response would be like, well, what do you actually love about teaching? And how can you get that fulfillment in other areas of your life? It sounds like it didn't go in that direction, but anytime you're really in this shitty situation, and once you realize like I don't want this anymore, it's kind of liberating once you get to kill that part of yourself or your identity. Like, you know what, like I don't like teaching. Like, yeah, maybe you went 4 years of college and you like did your what was it called, like student teacher type whatever the hell they call it, and then you've been in the school system for a while. Maybe that's all you know, but when you realize like fuck this, I don't like it anymore.
Yeah,
it's scary at first. Like you mentioned, you have to start kind of backtracking yourself, like how'd you get into the situation? Well, you got to reverse those steps to get out of that situation.
For sure.
But it's also kind of liberating too, like, all right, well, I'm clearly not a teacher, and it seems like you're a little happier even just waiting tables and doing the Uber thing. That job must have really sucked. But if at any point you find yourself missing it, you're like, well, I don't know anything else but teaching, maybe ask yourself, what is it that I enjoyed about teaching? Like when I was going into college, or I decided I'm going to make this a career path, what really motivated me and excited me? Identify those core factors and then see how you can bring those back to the surface and then apply them at a different area of your life.
100%. And also going back to the COVID thing in 2020, one of the best things for this channel, was me losing my job at that time. There was a big, massive layoff, like thousands of people got laid off at the company I was at. And yeah, it sucked at first, but got severance, had some stocks I could cash out. I was cool for a while, and it allowed me to dedicate way more time to this channel. And that really was, the inciting incident that got Unfazed kind of off the ground. Yeah, so, we had done videos before that and the channel existed, but it was just kind of a catch-all folder. And it was like, here and there we'd make videos without any consistency. But then after 2020, it was like a blessing in disguise, really.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. Yeah. And I think I will say I've never heard of anyone regretting leaving a situation like that. It takes a lot of courage because we're used to like it feels so scary when suddenly you don't have a job. But I mean, the truth is that no one really mentions it. It's not that hard to find another job.
Exactly.
As long as you're a fairly diligent worker, you let someone know. They're like, shit, we need people, so you come over here. Yeah. So it's not. It feels and sounds and looks like a scary situation, but once you've actually pulled the Band-Aid off and you move forward, it's like you're so glad you did.
Yeah, and that's one thing I noticed after the layoff in 2020. It really changed my perception of everything in a good way, where I was like that last job that I had that I, ended up becoming very shitty at the end. I was like, oh, I can leave. I'm skilled enough. I can get a job somewhere better, which I did. Where I'm at now is way better. And it kind of, it's empowering. Yeah. It's kind of like, oh, you know what? I actually do have the controls to my life. And I think a lot of times guys are, just so much on autopilot, and people just kind of get stuck in this day-to-day bullshit, and they forget that, like, oh, I can fucking steer this boat wherever I want.
Yeah.
That's what I think happens. Yeah, I think they get on autopilot, and then as an extension, they start to form their identity around their job. If you ask people, like, what's your name in the U.S. culture, especially, what's your name? What do you do? Where do you live? These questions. And if you listen to the way people describe themselves, like, I'm a doctor, I went to Cornell, I am married to so-and-so, I live in this neighborhood, I drive this car, and you're like, all right, is that really you, or are those byproducts of like whatever system of someone else's you fell into? And I think a lot of people craft their identities around their jobs, and that's what makes it scary to leave. For me, I had a similar experience. COVID was a blessing in disguise. I always knew I was going to go remote again. I always knew that I was going to move back to Latin America at some point. I always knew that eventually I'd be having a channel and I'd derive all my income from these types of activities, but I didn't know what that looked like. And it was something I always had in the back of my head as a goal, but I was making such good money in California in the job I was in. And then COVID happened, same thing, that I didn't get laid off. The company got sold. So like there just wasn't a job anymore. And at that point I was really stressed out for most of that summer. But it allowed me to pick up the guitar again, which got me which started developing that part of myself that didn't exist before, which got me into the spiritual stuff. Cause a lot of like music and spirituality, it's kind of like that same trance it puts you in a different frequency. And again, if you're not in that stuff, guys, I know it sounds like a bunch of nonsense, but
no, it's good.
But it's really real once you start to developing these dynamics of your personality or of yourself. And looking back, I'm like, God, thank God California happened, because eventually I would have gotten to where I am today. But who knows how much longer I would have stayed in that job, because it's kind of like the drip feed where I'm getting just enough to get by, and I'm living like on paper a high quality of life, but I'm not really happy inside. Yeah. But then all of a sudden, okay, well maybe they'll send me on a work retreat here in a couple months, or maybe I'll go to a conference that's really interesting, or maybe I'll get a project I enjoy. But my life is still dictated by someone else. And what COVID did at a global level, it just reminded you very quickly that everything I've worked for, the entire life I've built for myself, at the whim of some retard in Washington that I don't even know, that can all be taken away from me. So that
totally.
So I was always thinking these things, like I need to be the proprietor of my own universe, the architect of my own life. COVID reinforced that. It's like, I'm not going to live in someone else's world anymore. I'm creating my own world, and other people can come into my world.
There you go. Yeah, I remember one of our last podcasts before everything shit hit the fan in 2020. It was a decent enough video. It was like one of those walk and talk videos where we're walking around like the Arizona Center. And looking back on it, fine video, we're having a fun conversation, but kind of boring compared to our stuff now. Like we were very complacent. We even said it in the video that we were like experiencing this like level of complacency, which is so funny because it was like the last like walk and talk / podcast before shit really hit the fan. And we were kind of like, things are okay, things are cozy, nothing crazy. And it was just, it's like we needed it. I hate to say that, because obviously there's so much bad shit associated with everything that happened, but for us, grand scheme of things, it was kind of a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I think
shook things up, and
most of the listeners, if you're stuck in a bad situation like that, don't be afraid to jump ship.
Yeah. And people, what you were saying is so true, that people forget that they need to take charge of their own life, which seems like such an obvious thing, but it's the way so many things are structured, bureaucracy, onboarding, training, all that stuff. It's designed to make you feel like you need to fall in line, and you need to do the opposite of what you really should be doing, which is you need to lead your own life. So I think that's how people lose sight of that so
It's
easily.
like doing in any of you guys' jobs or in any other facet of your life. Ever done like a post-accident analysis where something terrible happens, and then you have to like reconstruct like all of the contributing factors that led up to that event?
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I started my career in the defense industry. So every now and then I'd get put on projects like that. And it's interesting because, again, you can transfer things from other areas of your life. Something I learned years ago, right out of college in my very first job, like how to do like a post-accident analysis. Well, you can apply that to your own life. Like, okay, I'm in a shit situation. What were the strategically misaligned decisions I made at just the wrong times to get me to this point I'm
Right.
at? And then how do I undo that? Can I undo it? Is it permanent? Or if it's permanent, how can I reframe that to have acceptance and then use that to motivate me to move forward? Or how do I start structuring things to counterbalance these? Like there's so many ways you can look at it, but
Yeah.
you need to start taking, I always say like self-audits. Self-audits are great. Like take an honest to God analysis of your own life. I like doing the activity of, again, if you guys have gotten like meditative stuff, like drugs, spirituality, whatever, it's where you can do that. Like here's Jaren, my consciousness is here in my head. Let's move my consciousness over here and look at Jaren as a third party objective figure. And then put yourself in that observer role and then just do like a post accident analysis or an audit or whatever you want to call it on your own life and be like, okay, what are the decisions made that got me in this place? Maybe there weren't decisions you made. I realize in my family that there's my sister's really Christian. So I'll speak to people in their own terms of their own language, but she calls it like generational curses. Like, okay, what are the generational curses? Things that like not even my parents did that are things that have been around for, since my grandparents, which probably came from his dad and came from his dad. Like, what are these things that led to me experiencing this at this moment in time? How do I undo that? How do I shift it? How do I rechannel that energy into another avenue? But I think that's kind of the first step to taking control of your own life is
Totally.
really understanding what got you here in the first place.
Yeah.
Like what led you to being in this situation.
Yeah. Definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again. If you don't, take a step back and analyze, nothing's going to change.
Exactly.
I did look at the Discord. We actually do have one more. It's from
cool.
Palm of the Face. Shout out to Palm. I'll kind of fast forward here. We'll go to right there, and you can read what he
Which part?
wants to talk about. Just right where it begins. One big thing.
One big thing that really sounds like a cliche because it is. The concept of feeling what you feel is very important, like handling loss or death and bad shit in general. And it goes beyond just allowing yourself to be sad. If you feel sad, it can be like anger or whatever. Like if a loved one dies, it can feel like a bad thing to be angry, but it's still important because you're getting stuff out of your system and you're working through it. This is funny because I think I was looking at some of your highlights, and I think podcast highlight like 3 weeks back, you were talking about the exact same thing. Like it's okay to cry at the funeral, it's okay to let that stuff out, and it's okay to acknowledge that in certain situations. Yeah,
Yeah, I agree.
exactly it. Yeah,
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I hired a coach, one of the guys in Rich's groups years ago, as a business coach, and one of the first things that we did in one of his first modules of his course, it was that what are emotions? And emotions are energy in motion. Of course, boom, that's like a revelation for me. Like, okay, so sadness, what is that? Well, it's a negative energy that can manifest in tears. It can manifest in you hitting the bottle. It can manifest in you going out and driving erratically. So you need to be able to experience these emotions. When I was younger, I had a lot of anxiety. I had it very, very bad, and I always accepted it to just be a part of me. It's like I'm just wired that way. I just have all this dissonant, anxious energy and it lives in your gut, at least for me, for anxiety. So I drink a lot, and language is very powerful. There's a reason country songs talk about like drowning away your tears or drinking away your sorrows. Like that's literally what it is. You have these emotions in you that you're not allowing to express themselves in a healthy manner. Problem is, a lot of guys, they'll be like, all this shit they're carrying around with them, they'll go get drunk and they get in a bar fight, and like that's not a healthy expression of that emotion. Exactly. So whatever that looks like for you, find a way to channel your energy. But you have to realize that as a human life force, and again, I use terms like I'm a universal life force and a physical manifestation having a human experience. Once you understand that like energy, sometimes it exists outside of you. It just permeates its way through you. Again, like a lot of shit that I was carrying around came from generational stuff. And then once you start weaving together the family story, like why is this an issue in the family generation after generation, you figure that out. Like, okay, now I can rewrite it. Now I can fix it. Like I can rewrite my legacy and change the trajectory of my entire lineage if I want to. These are really powerful things. But when it comes to emotions, it's just energy and motion. So when you're feeling sad, don't say like, oh, I got I always make fun of going back to the haters. Like, are you alpha or you beta? Like, and I had guys be like, Jaren, you don't seem really alpha. You don't get in bar fights and you don't talk shit to people. I'm like, that's not alpha. Those guys are fucking losers.
Yeah,
Because I'm not an idiot.
These are people that are not self-actualized enough to understand how to properly per my definition or per an objective definition, like how to have a successful human experience. Like if you're getting drunk, if you're getting thrown out of bars and arrested, like you're not having a good human experience. You're fucking up. So the universe will give you clues. Let's just say that. But in terms of the energy thing or the sadness, have a healthy way to channel these emotions. Years ago, when what started me on my whole red pill journey, I was going through a divorce, and I've never been an angry guy, but at one point when I found out the girl was like confirmed cheating on me, I was pissed. Like I was seeing red. And again, language exists for a reason. I had never seen red in my entire life, but like I was almost drunk with rage and I didn't know what to do. I immediately went to a buddy's place and who was a psychologist, the clinical psychologist, like, dude, I don't know what to fucking do. And like, we just went to the gym, and I remember just doing heavy deadlifts, single sets, like as heavy as I can go, just to exhaust myself. And I believe at the time that was a proper channel for that energy, because I had almost lost myself. I'm like, I'm going to do something I would not do. Like I was driving my car, I was going past the exit of like where the guy lived. I was in Texas, so I had guns at the time. And like, and like it's like the devil was taking the wheel, to use that type of language, which they use in those areas. But like it's really hard to like not go on that on ramp. Like who knows what would have happened, but something overtook me, and that negative emotion. And again, looking back, it was not just I was pissed at her in the moment. It's like unresolved shit from my parents' divorce, which stemmed back to my grandparents' infidelity and like shit like that. So once you're able to like backtrack all those things, that's why I like that post accident analysis. You realize, okay, well, these are forces that have been building up for 100 years. They're manifesting themselves through me, and I'm not prepared to deal with it, but I have to do something with this energy. Heavy deadlifts worked really well for me for aggression.
That's great. For
now, like I'm usually pretty level emotionally because I do a lot of energy work on myself, but guitar's a great one for that. There's days where like I want to practice a piece, but I'm just sad as fuck. And so you go kind of like more melancholic type sounds, and you just allow that to be channeled through you. A lot of guys, sex is a big energy exchange too. So I'll get guys that criticize me like, oh, you just fuck all these street whores and shit. Like, no, that's a massive energy exchange. Guys that are wired like me or that have done the work I have done, we don't fuck around with people like that. Like people that are selling their physical body for like food, that's it's sad, it's tragic, but that's a powerful energy exchange. I don't want to take on that energy and carry that shit around with me. So once you start to kind of rethink what emotion is, and for me the big one was it's energy in motion, whether it's in motion from the moment, whether it's something from your great grandparents generation, whether it's something that's happening at work, whether it's larger society pressing against you, you are going to have emotions, and you need to figure out what to do with them. Flying off the lid, and for example, like a cop pulls you over. A lot of people in the U.S. culture think it's smart to pull firearms on fucking police officers, and they get shot, and they wonder why they got shot. Like, okay, well, that's not the policeman's problem. That's a you problem. You are not properly wired or put together as a human adult being to deal with these situations. Again, it's sad, it's tragic. But you need to figure out when you have an emotion, what to do with that emotion. And then eventually you start piecing it together. You figure yourself out, and you know that like, all right, well, if I do this activity, it's going to piss me off, so I'm just not going to do that activity. Or if I talk to this person, I'm going to have a bad day. Well, guess what? Maybe that person shouldn't be your friend anymore. But once you realize emotions are they're transferable between different people, then you learn how to kind of get them in order, if that makes sense.
Very well put, man. Yeah, it's just to wrap up his question there. I think Jaren put it great. But yeah, it's okay to feel. It's like, if you want to cry, it's like no one's gonna think less of you, man. Like go ahead, get your emotions out. But try to also channel into something productive as well. Like I found something that really helped me with emotions and everything, and anger in particular, and stress, was boxing. I got into boxing, and one of the best things I found as far as like a stress reliever, and also having a YouTube channel, having an outlet, having a place where I can talk, having a place where I can create things and actually, put something out there for other people to enjoy. Like that's huge. Like that does a whole great thing for your mindset. Definitely.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's unfortunate that, male emotions are still largely stigmatized. And yeah, there's this whole vein of guys who like think they're alphas by sort of suppressing emotion, and that's like the opposite to me. I think more often than not, it's courageous to accept and express your emotions than to just like pretend they don't exist.
Otherwise, you end up, kind of like Jaren was talking about, if you bottle it up too much, then you might do something stupid.
Exactly.
When it comes that time to say, hey, I'm gonna pull this gun out and do something
And
crazy.
exactly.
I'm gonna have a bar fight that could potentially kill someone.
Yeah, that's obviously
they'll overtake you. It's like It's like here's your
Overtake
emotional
you,
capacity. You're filling up a glass. Eventually, it's going to spill over. As you're filling it up, if you're also offsetting what you're filling up by letting it out, then you're fine.
Yeah,
there you go.
Not to say. It's a metaphor I just made up now. Not to say you want your glass always empty. Sometimes you want to have a little bit of aggression. Sometimes you want to carry a little bit of sadness. But usually for me, I like to let emotions go in the moment. And a big activity for me also was working through stuff that happened to me in the past that was no fault of my own. The things that people had done to me or that I allowed happen to me, especially childhood, trauma, shit like that. And then you take a step back, and I went up the generation like, well, what happened to my parents for them to do this to them? Then what happened to their parents? And then you can trace it up the tree. You're like, it's just kind of an unfortunate situation all around. But if you remove like, okay, I was victimized by such and such person, you realize, no, this emotion overtook this person and it manifested in this, which affected this person, and it's just like a whole domino effect that eventually led to me. Like, okay, I'm carrying around emotional energy that's from generations ago. I got to fix this shit. I got to channel it. I got to wrap it up. I can rewrite the story, and that's kind of the way I see it.
Yeah, your reaction to the emotion is the most important thing, I think.
Exactly. Yeah. And you have to be able to recognize the emotion and be able to feel the emotion, not necessarily in the moment. Like so like in the case of the video I did a couple weeks ago, if you're at a funeral and your entire fucking family's falling apart and you've always been the rock, then you know what? Muster up the courage, be stoic, and then just know like this. For me, it's kind of soothing. Like whenever there's tragedy, like when everyone else is falling apart, for me to keep myself together and then get them back together, that really helps me work through the trauma. But there is a point where eventually I need to get away from everyone, and like I'll go watch a sunset, I'll go to a pier. My brother had an accident. He was wounded in the Marines years ago, and I took on all of the negative emotional weight of everyone freaking out around him. And then one night, finally, they like the doctor's like, hey, like he's in a coma. Like we're not going to do anything tonight. Like go have some you time. I went to a pier with a 6-pack and just watched the sunset and just kind of let it out in my own very quiet way. And then when I showed back up to the hospital the next morning, just on the spot, because when you're doing when you're involved in a trauma like that, the medical decisions are very, very important at every time. Like they're very critical. You have to make the right decision at the right time. In any other combination, probably. And it's not just like my brother's case, but any trauma in general, like you have to be precise. You have to be crystal clear. So for me, for whatever reason, probably because maybe I had somewhat of a chaotic upbringing when I was a kid, is that keeping everyone else together keeps me together. But eventually I do need some time for myself to be able to, because I'm carrying everyone else's burden now and I need to just let it go. Yeah, so 100%. Me and nature just kind of, you can literally just feel it. It just leave you. It's awesome.
Yeah, wonderfully put. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it reminds me of the. I've said this before, I think on other podcasts, where it's like on the plane they say put the oxygen mask on yourself and then help the kid next to you or the person next to you. It's the same kind of thing with like your energy and the fucks that you give and the energy that you expense. It's like it's very important to take care of yourself. But on that note, Jaren, we're gonna wrap it up. But dude,
we're going 3.5 hours now.
Yeah, 3.5 hours. But I mean, dude, what an honor having you on. You are welcome back anytime. You're just the best, man. Much appreciated.
Yeah, it was fantastic. I definitely enjoyed the conversation. It's kind of tough when you get going. You're looking, you're like, all right, we're like 20 minutes in. How's this going to go? And then all of a sudden you're like, oh God, we're 3.5 hours in. Yeah, we touched a lot of topics. So
and I will
definitely appreciate it.
Dude, yeah, thank you so much. I will say, I think this is our longest podcast yet.
Yeah, I think easily,
yeah, which is great.
I have a tendency to do that.
Dude,
I always say I have a face that people like talking to, and I've always had that since I was a kid. My friends actually joke, we'll be out and about, and if there's someone having a troubled day or like a homeless person, like there's a whole group of us and they'll come right to me and start talking and they'll just lay some shit on me. I'm like, fuck guys. All right. So
you got a talkable face, man.
That's great.
Yeah. Talkable face. So yeah, I definitely appreciate the conversation. It's been an absolute blast.
Yeah. Thank you, man.
Much appreciated. Make sure you guys check out Jaren's stuff. We'll have all the links down below. Give him some love, go subscribe. And if you guys are new here, if you're a Jaren fan, new to Unfazed Review, subscribe. And most importantly, remain unfazed. Yeah. Jaren Scott, thank you, man.